We go ahead and call this meeting to order. Chad, can you please do the roll call?
Supervisor Craig? Here. Supervisor Thorne?
Here.
Chairman Schaller?
Here.
Supervisor Bloomer? Here. And Supervisor Wolford?
Here. First item on the agenda is we're going to go into closed session. Can I get a motion to go into closed session, please?
So moved.
I'll second that. A motion by Bob, second by Terry. Any further discussion?
We'll, on a roll call vote. So, Mitch, who was the second?
Aye.
Okay. On a roll call then, Supervisor Craig?
Sure.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Supervisor Thorne?
Yes.
Chairman Schaller?
Yes.
Supervisor Bloomer?
Yes.
And Supervisor Wolford?
Yes.
That are his.
So moved.
Okay. The card going?
Try it again.
Okay. Can I get a motion to go back into open session?
So moved.
Second.
I got a motion by Ralph and a second by Bob. Any further discussion? I call a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We're back in open session.
Ooh, can't believe they sat there for an hour and a half.
We'll see you Thursday.
Here, when I walked in, I thought we were just going to do 1.5 right across the That's never. Move on to possible action on items discussed in closed session. Any discussion? Bob? No? Pretty much got it settled.
Yeah, after the discussion, probably
Daniel?
moved.
No? Kelsey?
What?
Any discussion? None? No?
Just
Okay.
discussed?
Can I get a motion then to, on the items discussed in closed session?
I'll make a motion to approve the items discussed in the closed session.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Mitch and a second by Ralph. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Kelsey, did you abstain or
Can I abstain?
if you want to?
Yes, I'm abstaining.
Can I get a motion to go into public comment?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Bob, second by Mitch. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. We are in public comment. Anybody? Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand the closed session was about wages and benefits now.
Yes, sir.
Has it been settled?
Yeah, I think so. We need to disclose?
You could. I mean, it's open if
That's fine,
you
yeah.
want to.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Mitch. You wanna?
There's going to be a 2% across the board increase for employees,
General
employees. There will be a pay bump for Steve Pence based on 2% and then 50 cents an hour January 1 and July 1. And then for Cassie, she never got a bump increase, so she will get a 0% pay increase with bumps of 81 cents an hour January 1 and July 1.
Yes.
It's quite a discrepancy across the board.
Right.
Yeah, we did have one. That's why we're trying to adjust it back so there's not.
Wasn't the police contract, wasn't it 1.5 a year for 3 years? Each
It was
year?
1.5, is it 3 years, Drew?
Was it 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5?
Yes.
Yeah.
And yet you're doing 2% for these people?
Yep, that is what the settlements are coming in at now, Bruce, 2%. Statewide. And this is just a 1 year. This This isn't a 3-year
I
contract.
know
or
3-year
anything.
guarantees, so.
Yeah.
Is that all gonna be in your minutes then?
Yeah,
Yep.
yep.
Got anything else for us, Bruce?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Go ahead. Anybody else? Lee? No?
You guys,
Yes, we were wondering about the issue with the water drainage. Has that been addressed in any of the discussion?
Which one?
What we just talked about was the compensation for town employees. I think we're probably gonna get towards our budget, maybe, we're hoping to get more monies, at least I am anyway, for drainage problems.
How are we going to get more monies? Where is that going to come from?
Yeah, we're trying to budget for.
What is it? Is there something specific that when you say drainage,
I'm just, the same issue, Lakeshore Drive, Plainview, water issues with the mains a lot, get water in the basement. I'm not the Del Rey people, but I know he was here earlier, and the same concern about if anything is going to be done with some of the sewer pipes run off, drainage pipes.
Doug was here at 02, but he
Yeah.
had to leave.
Yeah.
I talked to him a little bit before the meeting, and it's still just in preliminary, we're still figuring out a plan.
Okay.
But it's higher on the priority list, especially these two areas, the Plainview, Lakeshore, and the Del Rey. So, we have nothing permanent yet, but we're still we're looking at a bunch of different ideas. We have to figure out where we're gonna put that water and how we're gonna get it there.
Is
And
that
then we
going
got
to
the money part
happen
of
in
it.
this budget, or,
I won't know until the end of the night.
so you are finalizing the budget tonight? Is that,
We're hoping
We're
to.
hoping
We're
to.
hoping to, but
okay? Are any big purchases going to be made at all?
Nothing is planned.
Equipment?
I believe there's one big purchase that is wanted. I believe the fire
fire
department
truck?
Oh.
wants a fire truck for about, they're estimating $500,000.
Do have some significant repairs on the parking lot out here as well. That's in that budget request, but
We also have trees that need to come down too. But the water obviously is more of an issue than a tree.
Well, I was just curious, the fire truck is in need of replacement?
That would not be my territory.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ralph.
Nate's not here, but I mean, I can touch base with it. The truck they're trying to replace is from, I think, 1984. It doesn't meet any NFPA standards anymore. It's been needed replacement for, 5-10 years now. So, they've been slowly putting away money, each year. Do you know what the figure is that they put away each year? 30?
Well, it was 30, but there was nothing really put away for it last year.
Okay. But, so there's a small amount of money that's been put away, to try to make it so there's not as big a burden, but it's all stuff that needs to be, discussed yet tonight as far as, there's some options with some loans, and a down payment. There's lots of, different options on how to get there. But, it's a big need. The water issues are big needs. The parking lot, like you're saying, is big needs. We got a lot of big ticket items we gotta try to figure out. But, so that's what we'll be looking at tonight.
What's the maintenance program on this fire truck? How many calls has it been called on? The engines
I don't
are
have
good,
that
the miles
information
on
in
there,
front of me.
the tires are good,
What's that?
the tires are still good, the engine's still good, the low mileage.
Once
Maintained properly?
again, I don't know any of those figures in front of me.
No, the one that we're looking to replace is one of the. So what is it? I always think it's an 83, but 86. So as the standards evolve or change, they fall out of standard. So that one, typically we try and replace them in a 20-year. We like to do it in less than 20. I mean, a lot of our stuff ends up being 30, unfortunately. So that one specifically is considered a 4-person cab, but legally anymore because the back part is open. The people riding in back, I mean, they're outside the cab. So it's really more of a 2-person, which you can't really operate. You can't fully staff your pumper with really just 2 people. You don't have no one to run the attack lines. So typically, as far as you deploy it, to deploy your first pumper, which is the newer one. Then we got to roll the tanker. The tanker that we got, we didn't have to replace because the fire department got the tanker for $13,000, I think it was. They did a grant, so we were able to offload the replacement, that maintenance cycle, with the tanker because we didn't have to pay for it. It came under federal funds. But now we're back to where the pumper is in that rotation. Probably slipped a little bit, went a little longer, and ended up being the 30 years. So mechanically, they do maintain it steadily, but you get to a point where the equipment can't be improved anymore because it's the chassis, the body of the truck. It's still only outside cab or in the back. So
Okay, but yet you still have support from Holman, Alaska, West Salem, La Crosse, and other surrounding, La Crescent if we need. or fire,
mutual aid,
you know.
absolutely.
So,
So you're opposing the truck is what I'm hearing, and
a little bit.
yeah.
I would like to see our issue taken care of.
And I know you said flooding. Where is that specifically that you're talking about?
Plainview, Lakeshore Drive.
They've been coming for like 3 or 4 meetings now.
Plainview and Lakeshore Drive.
The duplex there.
Kitty corner from the community center.
Oh yeah, across I know what you're talking about. Doug's.
This is where we had another one of the big ones in July.
Did you guys you took a look at the French drain there?
Yep, we've inspected all the drains on the island.
And was that one obstructed or
Everything
no?
looks good. So no, it doesn't have anything to do with the drains. We figured that out. So, that's just a matter of taking baby steps. And I understand that, I especially where I'm at now, I get that, and I'm hoping that we don't need to choose between drainage and fire truck. I'm hoping there's a way that we can figure these two things out. Obviously, both very important items. I guess back to the truck is another. The fire department's managed to get the rating, the department down to a 3 here in the town of Campbell, which is almost unheard of for a volunteer fire department. That pump is now starting to fail. If we were to go through those tests again right now, we wouldn't be down to a 3, and that affects our homeowners insurance and things like that on the island. So it's just another thing to think about. And then there's the obvious safety issue. I don't want to be on the end of a hose with a pump that might fail. I don't want to be. That's the whole.
I don't want to be on the end of a hose sucking water out of a basement either.
Yeah, and I completely understand. Those are the 2 items we definitely got to look at.
Is it a truck that's trying to be purchased or a used truck, or how does that work?
They're looking at new trucks right now. I know there's been some discussion on some of the used trucks. Problem with used trucks is there are certain models out there that are very new, but the reason they're there is because there's something wrong with it, an underlying issue. But there's been a lot of research done with the trucks. The guys that are looking at them have been on the department for 20, 30 years. So they know pretty specifically what they're looking for. And it needs to be, if we found a used truck, it would have to be spec'd out to a community similar to ours. We're unique in the fact that we're an island and we cover more water than we do land. We don't have very many fire hydrants, things of that nature. Every jurisdiction that you go to with the fire department has different needs, depending on, if you're in downtown Rochester, you've got tall buildings and stuff that you're going to need to take care of. So that's where it gets hard with a used truck, is getting one that you can get spec'd the right way. So, but it's a very good question.
So the water drainage, though, I know this has been Campbell or the township has had continuous problem areas forever. And I know that the French drain, that was those drains that were put in, that was before engineering studies and volume or whatnot. I know the last rain exceeded whatever was in place, obviously, and overflowed or backed up. And so I think there's the 2 elements of that is, can you prepare for anything to ever come? I don't know if we'll ever hit that mark. if we got areas that are consistent now, new problem areas after development and some of that, that's kind of where this is at. And I don't want to. I know you're working
So that's
on that.
definitely along that line, especially on the lake shore area of the development. And I think changing weather patterns have been the top 10 rain volumes in the cross in the last 10 years have occurred in the last year and a half. So they're not getting smaller. We're getting more and more rain, not less. The storms that we're getting are bigger.
So whatever the systems that were in previously are now obviously not able to keep up. So the short, I don't know if there is a short answer, but were you reviewing that with like Davy, or I know there was Cedar Corp had done some of that work over on Del Rey. That was
Yeah.
something else you were looking at?
Yeah, we looked at all the roads over there. I mean, everything seemed to be built the way it was spec'd. I think that was a problem area before we had the torrential rains, and then they rebuilt the roads over there, of course. I thought they did a great job doing it. It maybe enhanced some of the problems for some of the really bad trouble areas. Obviously did in July, and so we're trying to figure out a way in that area to maybe, and I was told that maybe you had some discussion with the airport about that.
Right.
So we're trying to figure out a way to let that water have a spot to go, basically.
Right. Yep.
And so we've talked with the airport just a little bit. Maybe you can talk about
Chad and
that.
we met with the airport manager, trying to find a way to drain the water from Delray down into the airport property. So he thought maybe we could work with them a little bit to find a solution to that Delray problem.
Doesn't do much for you, I realize.
Yeah.
But I guess the point of the matter is we are looking at these matters and take them very seriously. I get water in my basement. I don't like it at all. And so I completely understand. There's people right now that haven't been able to use their basements in July, and they're afraid to. And I don't blame them one bit. But until we come up with, I don't know when we're going to get another rain like this. We might not get another one for.
But do we know?
Years we could get one next week.
I know you're looking at it, Ralph, but do they have an alternative to where? I know it's been discussed a million times, and the engineers looking at it, but at this point, from a budget, what I'm trying to gather is we don't know what to budget for because we don't know what to fix at this point. So I just want to say that we're not or budgeting for a fire department or a fire truck instead of fixing the road. Those two are separate individual things. The streets and roads budget is there. We have fire department, all comes out of the general fund. So from that standpoint, it's just I don't want there to be the practice or the perception that we're not doing one thing to pay for something else, because the funding from a couple sources they would be from probably two different areas to do that. But once I think that's an in process. I don't want to speak for you, but I know that on the board you've talked about it before as far as how to mitigate that or how much water is there and what you need to get to remove it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the hardest part with it. I think Delray, looking at it now, seems a little easier than the Lakeshore one, and I'm not positive about that, but it just seems like to get Lakeshore to purge, if you will, we need to get it to move further than we do Delray. And yeah.
What would you think we should go with the water from Lakeshore and Plainview?
Well, you don't need a torrential rain for water to get up to the house.
Okay.
I mean, it can be, 3 feet away.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a torrential rain.
And that's probably gotten a lot worse
The
in the
problem
last.
is, years ago, they elevated Lakeshore Drive, and then everybody built houses, and they don't have a ditch.
Yeah.
And they don't take care of their own water, so everything flows down to the lowest spot, which didn't used to be the lowest spot, but now it is.
Okay.
That's in a nutshell.
Since you guys live there, what would you think is put a drainage towards the lake or something, or the river, or?
I would say move the lake.
Yeah, but I don't know if we can do that.
Eventually, it's all gonna end up there anyway.
Yeah.
Why not just funnel it to go there and drain off the property? Like, I've heard everybody's property, you're 85% responsible for that.
Mm-hmm.
So you want me to go out there and start digging a trench? You know? I can help.
Well, I think that's a big part of it too. It's not gonna solve all the issues, but we need to get more people. And some of these places, I don't know how we're gonna get a swale in there, cause now we've got utilities and everything else, so at the end of the, it's hard to come back afterwards and say, hey, we need to, try to put a little swale in here. Maybe you know more about where that stuff sits than I do. Especially in this newer developed area on Lake Shore there. And is there,
facilities as far as NSP you're talking about? Or
any of that stuff?
Gas
That,
lines.
Yeah, 18 inches. 18-inch down.
I always said, you can hire an engineer to do it, but if I went and talked to the person that lives right at that house and the people around her, they probably have a better idea what to do. And you probably, how many years have you lived there?
I've had that property in my family forever,
Yeah.
since 1977.
and that drainage has gotten a lot worse in the last 5-10 years.
It has, like I
For
mentioned,
the
the
simple
factors
fact
of
that
the
everybody's
road.
built all the new houses south of that.
Yeah.
and the
Besides
road-
that, everything flows down on the opposite side. It goes to a drain over there and then flows over. And then there's a French drain on this side and also by Frank's, right in the corner. So
Yeah, so you're not just getting that.
I just don't get one, I get everything.
Yeah, it all
And
is
that's
right there.
so that's where I'm going. And some of that where that originally thought it was a great design is maybe exasperating the problem, and that's where I'm trying to get to is
Could be. I mean,
so from a budget standpoint, in your budget, I didn't look at it in detail, but I know in your streets and roads it's probably not broke out or defined that way, but I'm assuming
but
that
it's there.
yeah, we still have that, and that would
There's some
be
drainage in there.
that you're going to continue to work on.
Oh, that's high on my list. It's my phone that rings. So yeah, I mean it's right up there at number one. And I live 3 blocks from you, so I'm well aware of the problem. I mean, I don't. My stuff probably drains towards you too, so I don't get it quite as.
Well,
bad,
it's been that non-standard elevation thing has just kind of been a burr for the last 15, 20 years, really. Because somebody builds a property, and I put mine in, I'm going to raise it up, and
Right.
that terracing thing is
Right.
so.
So there's either run it to the water. There's we could come up with a spot we can build a holding pond and a retention pond. Those are probably your 2 options there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would assume maybe there's others, but
Well, and I mean, I can only speak to ours. That's what they ended up doing, and around ours is they put a big swale in on the adjoining everybody's property, and it fills up. In the last one, I mean, it'll get pretty full. It usually takes care of it, but if the rain volumes, if you get a bunch of those in a row, I don't know. It might not. I don't know if that's going to hold either. So.
Well, the other one that's not quite as appealing to the homeowner, obviously, is landscaping yourself, bringing fill in, raising the level.
Of the house?
Well, of the surrounding area, so that you create.
A problem for your neighbor.
Well, you can do it without creating
I
a
mean,
problem
some
for
of
the
that
neighbor,
can be
but
done, but if the house is still lower than.
I'm just saying that's just
house is lower
that's
than
just
the
an.
road.
Those are options. They're throwing other options out there. I'm just saying that
In the end, yeah, we get.
my cousin went through it. He had to raise himself above the floodplain, and all it took was a little bit of fill. He didn't raise the house or anything. So
You just
You know,
use it to divert from.
you just use it to divert away from the house to somewhere else.
Which goes back to the ditches that everybody's filled in over the years,
Right.
and all of that stuff that used to exist doesn't exist anymore. If you raise the roads up, yeah.
Again, like I said, not as appealing to the homeowner, but those are options. So I'm sure you'll look into it. But
yeah, I know we'll definitely be looking into it much further. Do you have other questions about fire trucks? Yeah, I'm sure if you do. I assume it was more about the water than the truck.
Yeah.
We'd like to replace the fire truck, but it's been the same issue for probably 10 years. How you gonna fix it?
Yeah, just like anything else. Where's the money?
They're always like, where's that money? That's a lot of money. Where are you gonna get it from? So that's why it's always been kicked down the road farther, making that initial $500,000 purchase.
So on that, for that purchase, for the folks that are here, we pushed it out a little bit. And this has been a topic of conversation with all the budgets kind of over the next 10 years. We have that incorporation opportunity. One of the things that those are all criteria they look for, fire department, is it up to date, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so along with that is, if we're going to purchase it, I'd rather purchase it sooner, I mean, not too much longer down the road, so that we get the benefit of it, because if it doesn't work out, I mean, we bought it, we use it for a couple of years, and we see or whoever, in this case would be Cedar Cross gets it. And to me, that's just not a good use of the tax dollar, because we're not getting any return on it. You know, a 10-year-old, you know, if they don't choose to incorporate, or if we don't choose to incorporate, we at least got to use it, got the value back out of it. So I just look at somewhere in there, we either do it or we decide not to do it and just run that truck till it's 40 years old. It's kind of where it's at. And then when we go to, if we do choose to incorporate, they're going to look at that and say you guys aren't replacing your equipment. So it's a little bit of a double whammy, but it's a little bit of that. It's also that strategic tax dollar use or town viability. So, but
Here's a couple pictures of some used fire trucks. I look once in a while to see what's out there. Like this one here, used was $312,000. This one don't have a price yet because it's still in service. It'll be like a year yet before the city pulls it out. So, you know, I look at it, you know, versus what it's going to cost for a new one.
So I want to really emphasize the fact that Ralph, you're going to continue to work on the drainage issue. The fire truck purchase or not purchase should have no bearing on the drainage issues. So
In the future, when you start doing these roads, will you take that into consideration for drainage along with the road rather than, I mean, if the homeowner lives right there, you can dig a ditch for them.
And
Maybe
most
lay some large
So
one
it's-
down there so the water drains faster and cover that with sand and,
so
Yeah.
I
the
mean,
the question is, and he's not here, but fire department, emergency management, Gary Simonson. So
You want it?
well, I'm just back when we did the floodplain, we did a comprehensive plan, floodplain drainage, all of this that goes back to right after the 2006 flood, 2004,
2001 flood.
2001. Gosh, I can't believe I'm that old. 2001. So we did an ongoing, we had a committee, we went through all that exact stuff, and it identified all these and the areas. One of the things was return the drainage, the natural drainage areas that used to exist, the swales, because we don't have curb and gutter in the properties, and it came down to enforcement. So there's the action items in there, and it was approved, and it was a board approved, I guess, mandate. But the enforcement and implementation of it was where it got to be a little more difficult. So to your point, when we do road improvement, I mean, that would absolutely be the time to, hey, anytime we do it, we're going to come back through. Now budget, you're going to force everything to scrape.
And to that point, they did try and address the problem at the last round.
Yeah.
Obviously, it didn't
Didn't work to what.
work to what they were hoping.
Agreed, yeah. It's an ongoing effort, I guess, is the other part of it, unfortunately. You know, a couple of those mandates, you put it in, you try it. There's got to be something more. So, kind of beat it to death, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anybody else? Public, go ahead, Bruce.
Did you get any commitment from the airport manager about draining that water, or did he just talk?
We just talked. No commitments, no.
So you got another meeting set up, or what's going on?
Nothing yet. The meeting actually was about the Nelson Park ball field, and then we kind of sidetracked off. Chad asked him about draining the water into that grassy area that they have there, and he said he didn't think we could do that because they want to develop that commercial property. But he thought it wouldn't be a problem to go underneath the road and then into where the airport, by the fence there.
Although it would be metered, and they would charge us for it. It wouldn't be
I can't
free.
believe that.
Yeah, it's been a forever effort to try and drain, because that would be the easiest route straight out there, but.
Yep.
So what's the options for funding sources to take care of their drainage problems then?
What's the options for it?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're gonna talk about tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna
Well,
be
you got some ideas? I mean, obviously going into the meeting, you got some ideas about funding.
I got an idea, but
Yeah.
maybe it should wait.
We'll get to that point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either, there's only so much money there, it's gotta come from somewhere.
Either it's gonna come from the general fund or it's gonna come from loan.
Yeah,
You know, right here, it's budgeted for 10,000 for drainage, but that ain't gonna cover
that
much.
ain't gonna, no.
Like one French drain. And so,
I think they're, were they $5,000 a pop, do you remember? Those front strands?
I don't know.
yeah.
I think
I
they're-
thought it was 10, but I couldn't get it on.
Well, they don't work. I mean, that's my problem with them. At this point, we got them in there and they're not working. So I need
Not
to
for
put-
that it didn't, that's for sure.
It works on a rain, like a inch, but when you get.
Well, I think the library one worked perfect up there and
Yeah.
that drained the upper end of Lake Shore there.
Right. At 4:30 in the morning, I drove around that morning and everything was under, I couldn't even see the mailboxes on Hinkley Road.
So when we heard that first rain that we had in May, they worked for that one. I was on the phone with the homeowner at 9, 10 o'clock at night that night, and the next morning, it was up into his yard pretty far, and the next morning the road was dry, but that was before everything was saturated. So we had a couple of good rains, and then we had that big one in July.
But I had water in my basement
In May? Yeah.
May 19th.
Because and I think what we're talking about is they put some new French drains in when they did the road project last year. So whether they actually work or not, it was kind of a new thing that they were trying. So, I don't know, they work, but they don't work, type of thing.
My understanding is they were mainly designed for the thaw freeze
Yeah.
during the winter, not necessarily heavy
That's kind of what
rainfalls.
Steve said too.
Yeah,
I think they help, but.
they help obviously,
Yeah.
but
But they don't solve the issue.
Anybody else? Public comment? Go ahead, Lee.
Should I get my 10,000 words?
Yeah.
So, going back to the whole fire truck thing. So you're telling me that, like for instance, with the safety issue, we were discussing a crosswalk down by Castaways and Tom Sawyer's where we would need a sidewalk, which was going to be a couple, $300,000-$400,000 to put that in. Or we've got some of our crappy streets that still need to be replaced. We've got the maintenance department that doesn't have running water out in their shop. They also have a street sweeper that's turning out to be a piece of junk that you guys are sticking a lot of money into. You got concrete over here that needs to be replaced. You've got repairs to the town hall and all this other stuff. So you're saying that the maintenance staff stuff can wait the 40, 50 years, but the fire department stuff can't. I understand that the fire department do go out and save lives, but in a roundabout way, so does the maintenance staff. I mean, their loader is even getting old, so it all depends on what type of priority you want to put on this stuff, because they're out there every single day using this stuff. They're out there every single day replacing the stuff on these pieces of equipment that are broken out there. They're having to come in here and go to the bathroom and use this room for their break room. I mean, I seriously feel like those guys have been neglected a lot. And they don't have a big budget. That budget's not huge. We know what Ralph's budget looks like. And it's not big enough to help them out. And I feel like we need to probably replace some of their stuff first. I mean, if the city's going to come in and say, and they're going to look, or the state's going to come in and look at and say you're not replacing your equipment, well, they're also going to look at the equipment in other departments that aren't being replaced as well. So, I mean, if you guys continue to do this, I guarantee you guys are going to be getting a lot more phone calls, and I will be pushing for people to give you guys calls.
If you continue to do what's that, Lee?
If you guys are going to move forward with this
Fire
truck, yeah, I guarantee I'll be getting you guys some more phone calls. talking face to face with people.
I think the fire truck talk has been going for a long time, but
Mm-hmm.
it's just like keep saying, how are you gonna pay for it? You know,
Same way with that department, the maintenance staff.
you know, that's what we're gonna be talking about, how are we gonna pay for all these things that we, sure, the loader is getting to be old, and well, at least we got tin on the shed now, so the guys in the maintenance guys don't have to get rained on. That was put off for years and years, we got that done this year.
The north wall's still leaking on them too.
Oh, is it, Steve?
Underneath, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad we can take baby steps with the maintenance staff.
Yeah,
That was being facetious.
yeah, we're gonna be talking about replacing one of the trucks.
I mean, none of this is new. This is budgeting 101
I
on
realize that.
board. So,
We were on board 2 years, we get that.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the issues that you face are the issues that you face. It's the same thing. But it's a pie chart. Pay your dollar to the government for your taxes. The town is 16 cents. So, I mean, it's not an easy job. Got to figure it out. Public safety usually ranks pretty high. Maintenance staff, the wizards at keeping this stuff going. Priority, you try and, it's never fixed. You try and prioritize the best you can with the information you have at that time and adjust accordingly.
Well, you can only be wizards at fixing it until you gotta put a rock in the front, rock on the back, and you're pedaling this thing with your feet.
Yeah, great analogy, but I don't see that happening.
Sorry, I wasn't literal, Bob.
Anything else, Lee?
No, I'm good.
Oh, yeah. Anybody else?
Well, I just want to say, as far as the fire truck, is that something we could bring to a vote for the whole community to decide where they would like to see? I mean, let the community decide if they want to spend the money. I mean,
Referendum?
That would have to be a
it is
referendum.
their money, our money, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, is that really a decision for 5 people, or is that a decision for the 2,200 people that can vote?
Well, we have levy limits, so I mean, we can't purchase the fire truck within the levy limits we have right now because the money simply is not there. So it either has to come out of the reserve, it has to be borrowed, or we could do a referendum and have the citizens vote, do you want to pay X number more dollars for the next 10 years to pay for and purchase this fire truck?
I mean,
And those are our options.
I mean, from the get-go, could it be I mean, I guess I don't know those rules all about that. I mean, I'm new at this. Could it be from the start, let the community decide if it's something they want to pursue? Or does that have
It would have to be put into a referendum for the
so we could put a
April
referendum?
election.
Do you believe the town of Campbell needs a new fire truck? So that could be a referendum?
Well, I don't think you want to put it that way. Do you want to purchase a new truck? Here's the cost,
Right.
you know. And then,
I mean, I'm just,
yeah.
I mean, because clearly people are upset about
Because
it.
yes or no isn't going to help you because it still doesn't solve the funding problem. If it goes to a referendum, then the community looks at it. Do we want to spend $500,000? It's going to cost me an extra $300 a year taxes for the next 10 years. Yeah, I'm willing to do that.
But we don't have to buy new.
No, I know that. Lee. I'm just citing an example that then the citizens have to decide through
But like it
referendum.
won't get to a referendum unless we vote that it should go to a referendum. And
Right.
that's what I'm trying to get across.
Right.
Because I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth or anything, but we will know how the vote's going to come out. So I guess I'm just trying to let the community have a little more control of their government is what I guess I'm.
Yeah, the April election, it could be, that item could be on there, but if you're gonna do that, you probably have to have it done by January, don't you? To go to referendum?
Yeah, there's going to be a February primary more than likely as well,
Oh.
and April, but
Okay.
April's probably your best bet for the referendum, only because it's probably going to be a higher percentage of voters turnout for April than February. But to your point, you're correct. The board would approve a resolution for the referendum. The question then gets there's some steps in there. It gets posted, published in the paper. It's got deadlines that it has to meet to be able to get placed on the ballot and things like that. But really, the process is pretty simple. You know, once the board approves a resolution for the referendum.
I just feel like personally on this board, we have people that have a lot of stake in that, and that should maybe abstain from that vote. I personally think, and I will stand by it. I don't know. I'm more power to the people is what I think, and I know they voted us in here, but they voted us in here to make a decision for the whole community, not for what we personally think for ourselves or a group of people. So that's my thought on that.
Are we in danger of losing any funding or matching funds or anything by waiting a few more months after referendum?
They've been waiting 4 years now for it, so.
Nate, how many
Just-
years they've been trying to get a new fire truck? Fire engine?
8 years on that truck.
8 years. Okay. Yeah, 8 years they've been talking about it.
But one of the things that's handicapped all town boards and all governments over that 8-year period is the levy limits that are put on by the state of Wisconsin. You can only spend so much money, and it's based on your new development in your community. Last year, we were fortunate that we retired some debt, so we had some room to fix the maintenance building, which was you could stand out there and get rained on inside the building. So we reskinned that and re-roofed. We don't have a debt retirement this year that's going to make this money up. So there's just not going to be money there to purchase a fire truck based on the current budget. It's going to have to either be borrowed or done by referendum or taken out of the reserve fund. Those are the only three choices. Because if we spent $250,000 this year to buy a fire truck, where are we going to get that money out of the rest of the budget? Because our levy only went up a few $1,000s this year, didn't it, Jan?
Yeah, I think it
Never
was,
recovered on the levy.
I mean, so the money just is not there.
So how much would that be per household or whatever that we would have to pay more to get that fire truck so we could get it? I mean, how much more if we have a referendum?
Well, depending on what you spent, I mean,
How much is it
and how
already
many,
put away?
over what period of time you were willing to do that. I would venture to guess it'd have to be 10 years.
I wouldn't do any, probably more than 10 years
Yeah.
on a note for
Yeah.
it, but, $500,000 over 10 years, I don't know, I'd be speculating, Tony, how much, it's all gonna be determined based on the mill rate at that time and your assessed value of the house, and it's really hard to determine. I have a spreadsheet that I could put those numbers in and probably get you some pretty accurate numbers on that, but I'd be speculating now.
I just wish that, all our departments would run more like a business and figure out when their equipment's going to be obsolete. We can plan for it, we can get money set aside for it, so when things like this happen, we can do it.
Well,
To be fair on that.
kind of did do that for a few years.
So we do have some money set aside for the truck.
Yeah,
Right, there is some money set aside, but even like this year, if we took all the money from the levy increase and put it to the fire truck, it's only going to be $3,000. That's all the additional money we have to spend this year, basically. And we have employee wages and other things that we have to look at. So there's not going to be a lot of wiggle room this year. And I don't know the exact amount, but it's not a lot of money this year. And we didn't retire any debt, where last year we were fortunate we retired $50,000 worth of debt, which gave us some room in the levy to do some things we needed to. This year that doesn't exist.
I had a meeting with Chad last week about building a master plan to replace every piece of equipment.
Oh, cool.
But he looked right at me and says, "Great, this sounds good. How are we gonna pay for it?"
Right.
you can try and capital budget, $40,000-$50,000 a year away, but with the way that it's capped right now, there's still not $40,000-$50,000
To put away.
to put away. So you can try all you want, but the reality is that there's not a lot of room in any department, and that's why I feel that every department we have to start getting better at our spending, what we use, how we manage to try and keep that, because there isn't a lot of room anywhere. When we went to the new cart system with the garbage, it wasn't because we wanted to get rid of Richards. They were great. Everyone loved them. The problem was we need to find some money to save, and that's we probably save $50,000 a year by doing it. I think
Well,
everybody.
the incentives were the penalties for not doing it were exceeding what we could budget for. Is basically what
Correct.
it came down to. Either you went single stream or you paid more money. So that's how everything is. So to that point, I mean, not probably everything, but I know with the police department, fire department, we always had equipment, a utility truck. We have that on that planned, replacement.
It's planned for replacement, we just don't have the money even when it comes.
Well, you kind of, I mean, we do at the point where, I mean, we've been able to do it. It's just never easy.
Yeah.
And what you think is going to be in 3 years is never exactly what you think it's going to be in 3 years. And we run 2-year rotations or 2-year stints on the board. People change. It's so that continuity also gets to be a challenge. But
Since I've been here, we've been trying to run, things like loans for the police cars. We have the dump trucks. When those run out, you try and get the maintenance schedule for the new vehicles, the cheaper ones. You try and roll those as because in a couple of years the dump truck's paid off. So we'll have that payment that maybe we can look at another loan of some sort for another type of vehicle. From a maintenance standpoint, you try and do that. But if you wanted to try and capital budget every piece of equipment on a 5-year or 7-year, life expectancy, there's just not a lot of room in the budget to do that. So you got to get pretty creative. Or loans are obviously we have a lot of loan room. We can do $17 million worth, but that creates taxes to go up. So. That's where the board has the tough decisions on that. So
Big sale.
lots of bake sales.
Anybody else? Public comment? Yeah? Can I get a motion to call the public comment? Public hearing?
move to close.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Bob, second by Terry. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Move down to business. Review and possible updates to policy and procedure manual. I know Chad had talked to me about this anyway, changing some sick leave benefits and stuff, but I don't know if anybody else had a chance to go through some of this. I guess I don't really see anything. Any changes that you'd like to make?
Well, I spoke my piece in closed session about how I'd like to lump everybody's time into one lump sum instead of 3 days for sick time and 2 weeks for vacation. Just give them, I'm just throwing a number, I'm just giving you a number as an example, 30 days, and they do what they want with it. So it streamlines things a little bit. It seems to be the way that I know we're government, but big corporations are going that way, and
Private sector, that's private sector, that's pretty standard.
And it's a lot easier on the person that's doing the HR responsibilities then.
Well, it wasn't my understanding though is a lot of the reason they went to just PTO instead of calling it sick is that they were tired of getting people to call in that wanted the time off and go, I'm sick. Just call it what it is. It's personal time off. I get that part. The way that these are structured with the tiers obviously is old. I mean, it's old policy, but you start lumping it all together. Now you have to start rewriting policy about what's carryoverable, what's use or lose, what's paid out at the end of the year. And I don't know if you guys want to get into that or if it's just easier to keep a couple different banks of time open.
If you want to give it a month, I will totally go through this and.
Well, the good news is with this is that we can definitely bring this back, say in a November, December
Especially
meeting.
if we're looking at a review process, that might be a good time to do it all at one time.
But I know there's been a lot of talk and a lot of what the sick time has come up a lot with the employees. And from a monetary standpoint, there really isn't, if we rewrite this well enough, that it necessarily won't cost the town money to let them bank it, unless they use it, of course, then you're using time. But, you know, when you talk about some of the the two older employees that get it, Steve and Steve, you know, they continue to accumulate their time, and the newer people, myself, Cassie, Joe, and Lenny, don't have any additional sick time necessarily. So I think I'd rather see somebody have some sick time and use it if they're sick than to come into the office sick or come into work sick because they're afraid to use up their vacation time because they have a doctor appointment or they have the flu. You know, I think fair is fair. I'd like to see it back. And if you rewrite it where there's not any monetary loss to the town for letting them accumulate it, unless they retire, so be it. I don't see the harm.
I think it's like you said, we'll bring this back. Sure. I'm not an HR person, so.
I mean, I'm not a pro, I have a degree in it, but I'm not a pro.
I'd be more interested, like you said, that all the private sector does it now.
Everybody's a grown adult. If you need to take a day off, take a day off. And you shouldn't have to explain why. If you need a day off because something's happening in your family and you'd rather not tell, well then fine. Hey, I'm not coming in today. I don't have to tell you why.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gives more people more freedom and you learn to trust your employees a little more than keeping them so close. So that's just my opinion.
And again, I don't disagree with you. I think the time is you know, these were written a long time ago,
Well,
I'm
and
sure.
you keep that kind of, you know, if you've been here 25 years, you receive 5 weeks, you can keep that. But you just put a cap on how much they can bank if,
The only thing about banking though, in a smaller place like this, is I would hate for anybody to bank more time than, you know, all of a sudden they have 5 weeks, they don't use any, and you're telling them you can bank some more.
no, you don't get bank anymore. What would happen then is you choose to take that paid, you have to hurry up and take your 5 weeks off or you lose it, or you take paid, just half your pay. And then if you're up to the 25 mark, then the next year you get 25. Well, if you always would have 25, but if you're someone that's working 2 to 7 and you get 2 weeks vacation, so you get 14 days for whatever, obviously that's not very fair if you're sick and stuff, but let's just use it as an example, and you decide you're only going to take 7 days of your 14 off, then next year when you get 14, you get your additional 7, but only to a cap of 25. So like you could bank up to 25 days. But anything after that, you could maybe put into short-term disability, I guess, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things like that. It gives people the...
Again, I agree calling it what it is. It's, you know, personal time off, vacation. I
I'm not saying we
understand
have to switch that
but
tonight. It was just, you asked my opinion, and
Yeah.
that's what it is. And nor may I be right. It's just something that seems to work for a lot of places, so.
I just think, you know, talking from the employee's perspective, again, there's just been a lot of talk on the sick leave, and when they took it away from the new people, I think it does kind of hurt a little bit, you know.
But they could turn out getting more sick time. If you're going to say, for people that have been here 2 to 7, instead of the 2 weeks, they get 3 weeks, you're ending up still with 2 more days or whatever it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Ralph, you got anything on? Carry it over?
Yeah, you're gonna look at it?
I guess the question then would be with the people that already currently have it, the 2 Steves. You know.
I know where I work, nobody gets their birthday off, but I'm not opposed.
Yeah, I can believe that. And the day after Thanksgiving.
Mitch?
Yeah, let's hold it over, review it, and bring it back.
Bob?
We do it.
Need a motion on that?
Yeah, motion to carry it over?
I'll move to carry the handbook review over.
I'll second
Hold it
that.
over till next meeting. Till next meeting?
Sounds good.
Wait, not next meeting, that's next week.
Yeah.
December.
December's.
December's meeting.
Yeah.
We live here. We're
Yeah.
gonna live here. I don't understand.
Have a motion by Bob, second by Mitch. Any further discussion? Call motion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Let's move down to the working session for 2018 Town of Campbell General Fund and Utility Fund.
Woo, good stuff.
What the good time start. I'm gonna go to the restroom.
Yeah. Take a 5-minute break.
Oh yeah, will do. Otherwise, if you hold it down. Come on.
Now, obviously, there's nothing in the budget about the fire truck, is there not? Or is there?
Oh, yeah.
I was looking for it, I must have missed it.
Capital outlay.
Oh, that's why, yeah, okay, I was looking here. Okay, right. Okay. And with that in there, how much over the levy does that put us? 400,
730,000.
30,000.
We got 1.2 million, so.
Yeah.
That would obviously drain 60% of our reserves.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, the good news, Lee, is we only got to trim 730,000 out of the budget.
That'll come out of parks there.
Yeah, that'll come out of the budget.
So pretty much my position is gone.
You ever think of the money for the drainage to maybe have some kind of matching funds so people can get landscaping, and you can say we'll give you a certain percentage towards just specifically addressing that? And that would probably stretch the money farther and address the people's problems more.
They could make, I mean, I guess there could be a policy on something like that.
This way it puts the problem on the homeowner to get it done rather than come here and complain. And we can help them out. I'd be okay with doing that.
You know, I wish that we had a stormwater utility that we could use and build up that way. With the way that the levies,
At the meeting with Chad there about the budget, we talked a little bit. I met with the police chief and there was a couple of things he thought he could cut a little out of his. We'd get that, get down. What are we talking, Chad, about? I thought it was 70, but it's over 70? Or over the budget?
yeah, I can do some quick math here real quick.
That's without capital outlay, right?
Yeah, if I take out,
Take out the fire truck, take out the parking lot, and
Right. Okay.
then we're still 70,000 over.
And that's not including potential for the trees.
Right.
Any estimate what the trees would cost to take down?
From what I've gathered, for the amount we have, I'm thinking about 46,000. That's high.
We borrowed $50,000 to buy that police car last year, and I was wondering if we could redo that loan with the state bank to pay for it in the trees. Or the other thing around, or drainage issues. It'd probably be over $20 during the engineering.
That's what I'm wondering, yeah.
But we don't need to take every tree down in 2018.
We have 76 trees, we're gonna get a better deal to take all 76 down than we are to cut it and do 36 or the rest.
Oh, better of a deal.
so I'm,
I was hoping maybe we could do 20 a year or something.
What tree service?
Well, I haven't got any bids yet.
Oh, okay.
I haven't-
Be sure you get Dave's from La Crosse.
here's what I'm pulling out. So
I think so.
on page 8,
Some guy called me.
so currently right now,
For $300.
730,000 is what we're short.
Okay.
It's called bids.
if we go on page 8 there, I pulled the 11,000 from the general buildings. I pulled the 70,000 for the project out here. I pulled the 5,000 from the police department, the 500,000 from the fire, the 61,625 from the capital outlays. We're down to 87,399.13. If you pulled the capital outlay on the parks, obviously that brings us down to 15,375.
Excuse me?
I'm just saying, I'm just bringing it all. Bring it all to now we already knew, you have to remember that we have about 1.2 million in the reserve or the fund balance. So we already knew that going into this, so that 61,625 was going to be used for the remainder of what I anticipate from the receipts and everything that we got for the streets and roads project that's left. So we knew that was coming out of the reserve anyways. Other than that, we were anticipating about 70,000, I think, for the project out here.
For the paving?
For the paving, yes.
It was 70, did you say?
That's what Mitch submitted.
That's, Steve worked it up on an estimate, and that's about what it would be. 70,000 bucks.
Is that the whole yard?
Just the yard,
Just the yard, not the lot.
not the lot.
Just the yard. It's
Just
that
the-
work. Wow. I'm not a masonry.
Yeah. But we calculated out 5 inches of concrete by square foot, and that's gonna be pretty close. A lot of concrete out there.
Yeah, no doubt. And conversely, the blacktop costs typically not a whole lot cheaper, and you don't want to do blacktop because it's not as durable.
Yeah, and I've already spent $1,500 just to patch it for right now to get us by, because there were some big holes out there.
That's understood.
So,
Put the blades on that loader and hit the blacktop, it did right here. So, yeah, concrete, it's not gonna do that. If you continue to use it as a yard waste, you're gonna have to
Right,
do
yep.
something like that.
And how long will the concrete last with all the salt that goes out there?
That's the question.
you put there's a preservative you can put in there to help the concrete with the salt on it.
That needs building yet too, or does
What's that?
that need a cover of building yet too that they're gonna put up?
Well, we pay a fine every year because we don't have a salt barn. But no, we don't have any money to put up a salt barn either.
That's what I'm saying, that's not included.
Yeah,
Well,
no, that's not included.
And this is totally outside of my purview, but we had talked some of that with maybe changing over to brine anyway at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, discussion was made. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know, but
To me, it sounds like good.
Even with the black brine program, you'd still have to have some salt available.
Yeah, you have to have some.
I do. 70,000.
Well, if we did go down to that, we were still 15,000.
But you're taking everything away from the parks.
Well,
So.
In that. Oh, go ahead.
So, I mean, we made a lot of progress this year. We set it up, or you guys all set it up very well, that we could do a lot of great things this year. And I think the response from the community's been amazing. I think people are really happy, they're thrilled, they're getting back out and enjoying the area. I just don't want to see us go backwards, because
So the 77 that you had in there, Kelsey, is for, if you could help me out. 'Cause I
well,
think-
and actually, I did update it and I cut stuff back and I saved another $7,300. I thought we had discussed we were turning them back in after we reevaluated them, but clearly I must have dreamt that. But I wanted to put new park equipment at 2nd Avenue. They have the old equipment, metal. I wanted to get something new there. Stuff's not cheap. I do get it on sale, and I'm usually pretty good about talking into free shipping. So I wanted that. It's all outlined here. I wanted to fix the concrete at the Fisherman's Landing. That needs a lot of help.
Does that come out of that capital outlay though?
It can, or it can come out of
Boat
my
landing money, is there a
boat
separate account for
money,
that?
my permit money.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
I,
all the general fund. but-
Yeah, I don't know, I guess, so,
It's then I wanted to
It's
reseal
probably
the
about-
basketball courts.
There's
If
probably
we
in
don't
that 50,
fix them, they're going to
15,000,
get worse.
somewhere in there.
I wanted to
It's
fix
not-
up the
it's not
Plainview
huge.
Park shelter. I don't even think that people know that they can rent that. We do rent it for a small fee, but if we fix it up and maybe charge a little bit more, there'd be more income coming in. I wanted to look at putting a dock at the spillway landing, which could potentially still get done this year. We're not 100% positive, so that might get knocked off.
dock at the upper swelling?
Fisherman's.
Fisherman's Road this year.
And
That
then
will be future.
replace the broken park equipment at Wardwell. There's equipment there that is not safe for children. And then we also need some new rock, or whatever we choose to put down as the safe protection area. And then there's a shrub area at Wardwell where there's the flag, the 2 flags that the fire department puts on in, that needs to be fixed. It was asked by the beautification committee this year, but all the contractors I talked to didn't want to take part in it. So I'm still trying to hunt somebody down yet.
So if you take all of the,
And then a yearly frog pond cleanup, because I'm not sure if anybody is aware or checked Facebook, but there was 10 of us. I thank you, Chad and Terry, for coming to help. We
That
found
was that day.
15 tires, 2 TVs, and a dumpster full of stuff. 2 needles, which we expected a lot more, but we did a lot of work, the 10 of us, in a short amount of time, and I think that's something that needs to be kept up every year. I'm guessing on $700. We haven't received the budget or the bill from Harder's yet for the taking away of the stuff that was found, but I do feel that these are all necessary items if we want to keep people moving to the island.
so if you take all of the boat landing stuff out of the capital outlay, what does that do?
Well, if you look there, well, yours is different than mine because I have an updated one, but the total minus the revenue and the boat landings, well, altogether was 120,000. But if you take out the 77, which I brought down to 69.7, minus the boat landings of 16,000, we think about this year, could be a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do that in my head. Anybody?
The dock at Fisherman's, would that be something that we could remove if we had to? Because the airport manager said that the FAA is telling him to close that road.
They just put about 800 feet of blacktop in there.
Yeah.
Boy, that's gonna piss off a lot of people.
Yeah, well,
So is that our, they will pull that one off?
It's not ours.
Landing then? The landing or anything?
Fisherman's Road landing.
The landing is actually owned by the Army Corps of Engineers.
Engineers.
We have an agreement with them to allow for the landing.
The Cross abandoned, said we're not gonna maintain them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they went back to Corps Engineers. Corps Engineers offered to us Campbell, and they took it.
And yes, I believe Steve and I discussed wheels on it. Correct?
Well, this will be a floating dock with pipes anchoring in it. It'll be removable. It wouldn't be like the pure type you have at Nelson, no. It would be more, it'd be removable, yes.
So the, I guess just for my standpoint, I don't think we should ever take money out of the general fund for any boat landing stuff because we have a permit system in place for that.
That's
I'm
where the
not
money
saying it's not
goes.
over there.
What's
It's
that?
That's where the money goes. There's 15,000 roughly in there, Chad.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick math off my head.
Yeah, okay, so, yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm just saying any from, so that money is basically earmarked for the landing stuff already, or not necessarily?
We didn't earmark it, I don't think, did we?
It's sitting in the reserve fund. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
ready for use, but I would have to trace it back through like a spreadsheet and,
See exactly
and
what got spent.
come out exactly and give you an exact total. But yeah, but I'm thinking like last year we were just probably break even ish, and then this year we haven't really spent anything, but we're making, I know we'll probably make about 16,000 or so in revenues, so,
On that, on the permit.
yeah.
Yeah. By the time when I left, we were like maybe $1,000 in the black.
Yeah,
I think I had like 12,000 to use this year.
yeah, so. We're starting to make money, and we have money set aside, so whether or not we use it this year, continue to save it for bigger projects or whatever, that's up to you guys. I mean,
I personally see a need to fix the boat landings. A lot of our public and people from across and all over come here maybe to use them, so.
Well, I don't
The-
just go.
Well, the one thing I see here, I guess, I didn't really look at this, but we're budgeting 15,000 in boat landings and then 15,000 or dock. You could probably,
I could potentially.
you'd probably want to pull one or the
You
other.
gotta shoot high, because I knew you guys were gonna take from me, so.
Well, I mean,
I
I know that, and I know that's kind of the budget mindset. I don't do that. I look at it really straight up, and so, I mean, I'm going to be flat out honest. As a heavy user of North Spillway, I would never stick any more money into North Spillway. Period. As a taxpayer, should be a low maintenance landing because it takes so much ice and water and wind, and I think you leave it a bare bones landing. So putting a dock in, to me, I look at long term. The more stuff we put in, the more stuff we have to maintain and replace. So once you start the spending cycle, it's hard to break it. I didn't know about Highway 22 or Fisherman's, but maybe we hold off on it. I mean, keep whatever that expense of the budget, but the ongoing challenge is really just weed removal.
But I don't think I have anything on my budget here that says I wanna put I'm talking about the other spillway on Fisherman's Road.
Yeah, Fisherman's
That's
Road.
what I'm not talking about putting a dock over here.
Oh, I thought somebody said something about Spillway.
I mean, it could potentially be an idea, people do use it, I get tons of phone calls about it, that's probably the one I get the most phone calls about. That-
What? Yeah, I used to get a lot more. I don't get as much. The biggest complaint I get is people buying permit but nowhere to park. Is usually when people call and complain to me, it's because they have a permit and it gets parked full of non-permit vehicles.
Which landing do you get to call?
North Spillway, so the sand one.
The one that goes down.
Yeah, so there's they put the one pad in,
Yeah.
and now it's really narrow. Well, people will park alongside and go stand there and fish, and people are trying to get their boats
It's
in.
Fisherman's Road. I was down there the other day, or a couple weeks ago, and there was cars parking down. That one gets used quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just didn't know there. I'd say if you're gonna put money in, I mean, I think that one has commonly been a good access point. I just didn't know they were gonna close that as potential.
I wasn't aware of that either.
So maybe may or not. Who took? Did you just say that, Terry?
Yeah, that's what the airport managers come in and,
Just trying to get it closed, huh?
well, no, but the FAA recommended that he would close that because people want to, that's all they shoot down airplanes and stuff. So, the FAA recommended he close that off completely.
Honestly, though, I don't think the city of La Crosse will allow that to
Yeah, they
happen.
never know.
Anyway, okay.
I don't know, we wanna move on to someone else's budget and take that apart and see if we can,
Good show.
I mean, let's be serious.
We can go to police because Chief is here and he probably wants to get going. But him and I had a conversation about it. And like the squad maintenance and repair, we thought maybe we could deduct 1,000 out of that, and fuel and oil maybe 1,000. And then the taser thing under the capital outlay, the program says that you only have to pay like $800 per year. Is that correct? Instead of paying a lot.
Replace the 5 tasers. The ones that we carry now are 10 years old. They're not even being serviced anymore by the company. And we're starting to get several errors on them. Anyway, long story short, to replace them with brand new units, they're about $1,350 a piece. We would get a $500 trade-in value for the 5 that we've got, and then we could make that, it would be a 5-year repayment plan with interest. So I put in the $5,000 as capital outlay with the thought process of just trying to pay the whole thing off, but the reality, the first payment would be $800
Yeah.
in 2018, and in 2019, we would have the option of just paying $13.50 for one of them, or if I had the money in my budget in 2019, I could pay them all off. There's no penalty to pay it off already. So it's a no interest 5-year loan. So that 500, or that 5,000 could be $800 if we just make the one payment. So that would be $4,200 out of my budget. You know, the thought process, kind of like Bob, I kind of bare bones it here. I put out what I thought I needed. Squad maintenance and repair. We've got three cars in our fleet now that are being used. Prior to this, we had 3 cars in the fleet, but 2 got used. We turned the blue Impala over to the town, and it's become a fleet car. We've got the K9 car that's being utilized, the new SUV, and we got the old Impala. That old Impala, it's a 2010 with 105,000 miles on it, and I gotta get 2 more years out of that car. So I'm just concerned that there might be some maintenance costs that accumulate over the next 2 years. So I figure a little bit higher for that, but we could always. There should be very little maintenance on the 2 SUVs because those are fairly new. Fuel and oil, I just never ever know. Gas went up 20 cents in the last 6 weeks, so who the hell knows?
Yeah, and I didn't do it myself, and normally I do it. Does anybody have a projection on gas prices for the year?
Should that all for next year?
I think going down.
So I mean,
I work in fuel business. It's a game. I mean, it's a big game.
Right, it's a game. Exactly. So it's
who
a
wants
roll.
to throw money in? Who wants to take the money out? My day job, I work in the fuel business, and so I mean, right now the money. The reason your gas prices went up now is because of pipeline in Chicago had a leak, and it was supposed to take a week, and it's taking way longer to fix, and it's causing problems and it's causing issues.
So this is a temporary.
Well,
increase
until
maybe.
someone else wants to screw something else up and makes the money.
Bottom line is, if I make that one payment of $800 and take 1,000 out of each of those 2 line items, it's $6,200 that I can cut from my budget, and that would be a very, very, very small increase from last year's budget. So there's just, I mean, that's unless I start cutting general ops budgets and training budgets. Whatever.
Unfortunately, I don't think there's any room in the general ops budget to cut from you. I mean, 10,000 of it is yearly stuff like the phone, office supplies, the internet. You're really running about on an $8,000 general op yearly budget. I mean, when it comes down to it.
When you considered the $5,000 for capital outlay for police, was that already considered in your cuts for 15,375?
No, that one was not.
All right.
The only issue I have with that is doing a 5-year note on a bunch of tasers. That's
Yeah, I told him that.
And again, Jim,
I have a hard time with that.
I could pay that off in 19, or I could pay more at the end of 18 if I had money left. I mean, it's just there's no penalty to pay it off early.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a 5-year loan. It just means that for next year, if it's tight, I can get away with $800, and at least we can get all 5 of them in service, and then we can figure it out from there. Those are the only areas that I bumped up for the 18 budget. And like Chad said, I'm coming in at probably a little over budget this year.
A little bit.
There were some unexpected costs with the squad car and the remodeling that came out of my general ops budget, but so I'm trying to be as realistic as possible. So we're in the ballpark. Wages and fringes obviously are fixed. I mean that's what it is.
So you said maintenance or repair from 7,500, you could go down to what?
Take 1,000 off, 6,500.
65.
Fuel and oil. I mean, have you looked at that recently, Chad? Where am I at? Am I gonna make it? on 10 grand this year.
Yeah,
So if you want to go down to 11 on that, take 1,500 off of that. And then the capital outlay, like I said, just assuming I make the $800 payment this year, that takes that down to 4,200. So
is that what the board tentatively wants to do, or split that up 2,500, 2,500, or?
I was thinking, what I was saying there, write it down.
I'm okay with the 2,500 split.
between 18 and 19. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I mean, if we need to adjust more somewhere else, I guess.
Yeah.
but-
And if he's got money left at the end of the year, he can pay off.
Ralph, I was looking at yours and I don't really see any cuts that we could do because it's right, pretty much bare bones, right?
Yep, I didn't add anything in.
Yeah. I'd love to increase the drainage thing, but then I'll, we did do that loan for the police car last year. Chad, could we redo that to justify engineering and for drainage?
Yeah, I mean,
It's for a capital item, doesn't it?
no, it doesn't have to be for a capital item. Statutorily, the town board's allowed to take out, right now our cap's about $17 million, so.
Right. We kill it.
You don't even need constituent approval. You're just authorized to do it. Now, I
Bury the town.
don't recommend you do that,
Buy a
but
coat with a bullseye on it.
yeah. But no, you're allowed to spend out of the reserve or take a loan out for whatever you guys feel fit. Problem with the loans, obviously, is it affects the levy because, and then the taxes. So you have to be careful about how you're going to field those phone calls when people see that their taxes went up 20% or 5%. Hell, you probably got calls when it went up 1.2%. I mean, so.
Even since we're redoing the existing loan, it wouldn't increase it though, correct? If we don't redo that loan, well then it'll go down.
So
What existing loan?
The one for the police car?
for the remainder of what's
Oh.
left, you mean redo with the loan and
Actually, the police car payment that came off, we have to cover the last payment of the skipper liner note. So we're basically swapping 50,000 for 50,000 this year.
Oh, okay. So that's already pretty much.
That one's already taken care of, spoken for, yes.
2019 you'll have it.
Yeah.
But in 2019, you'll have it.
2019, we'll have a little room with some debt retirement.
Right, we'll have 50,000 that will retire for 2019. And that's what I was talking about at the last one with you, Nate, is that the potential for the fire truck and maybe using some of that payment, I don't know if you want to use all of it for the fire truck, but some of that payment would be a good time maybe to use that. Although, at the same time, we have another round of roads and things like that really could be used for that too. So and drainage. So it'd
be great if we could keep that program going.
2 years from now we lose 30,000 because the dump truck gets paid off. But maybe at that point you want to use that for maybe the maintenance department needs a new truck then, and then 30,000 for their payment. But
Well, in some of that, Chad and I talked about. So if you look at maintenance department, I think if we earmark that, I mean, I don't know what the future boards will do, but I mean, you look at that. I mean, that's the tactical, strategic stuff that you gotta kind of look at, and maybe so if you forecast it, say, okay, tentative 2019 purchase a new truck. I know it takes a year to spec it out, and find that. So how exactly you put that into a future board mandate is not, that's the forever challenge.
Chad and I tried to meet with Nate one night last week and see if we can start the process of how we're going to pay for this, but
Yeah.
that's the hard part.
that is the hard part. Like I said, you have the room, you have the loan room.
By 2020, you essentially have 80,000 in debt retirement that you're reallocating to other.
Yeah.
I I mean, it's,
I know there's a difference of opinion on this as well, but we did, from 2012 to now, we've put away about 100 and, the argument could be made that there's about 145, 150,000 that was set aside.
right.
Part of that reserve fund as well. Although again, from a budgetary standpoint, every year that it was never earmarked for it. It was, that's always the argument, but we do have some of that room in there for that.
How about you, Mitch? Is it, I don't know, pretty much,
Well, most of my budget's preset.
it's pretty set.
I mean, town insurance, 58,533 for all our insurances, 20,000 for garbage, 66.50 for the hazardous waste. That's was $1.25 this year, Chad. Then it goes up a nickel for the next 5 years to $1.50 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's preset. Recycling yard waste. We actually went over budget a little bit this year, I think, so I did bump that up a little bit. Library general operations, we've always budgeted less than actually what we're spending and just robbed Peter to pay Paul, so I brought that up to what our actual expenses are. And then I asked for library capital outlay of $5,000. In the event we have to replace the well. We limped it along another year last year, but I don't know that we'll be able to do it again.
Is that 10,000 in there from Roberts or Brennan?
That's an option that we can use. And,
Just set the name on it, use it up.
yeah, and but other than that, building and plant utilities, 18,000, which is about what we will spend. 3,000 for the holiday decorations. Now, the issue we have now, apparently Xcel Energy doesn't want us putting the holiday decorations up on their poles, so unless we have an alternative, that's $3,000 there we can save. But I didn't put enough money in the building plant maintenance repair for what our actual costs are probably going to be next year either, so technically may need that $3,000 as it is. $6,500 for attorney fees. And we've been able to avoid pretty costly attorney fees the last few years. This year we endured some expenses, but I think we were still under budget. And 65 is not a whole lot of money if you have a major incident. That'll be gone in a heartbeat. So I think my budget increased about 18,000 from the previous year, Chad.
I don't have the numbers.
I think it was about 17 or 18,000. And the two biggest increases obviously came from sanitation, the garbage pickup, and the increases in the cost for liability and insurance for the town. So we could reduce our sanitation costs if, the recycling goes up, then we can save some money on the garbage side, but that's up to the individual citizens, and we can save a pretty good chunk of change if everything that is recyclable actually goes into that recyclable bin, but not everybody does that, so.
Right. I would say most of your expenses are pretty static.
Yeah.
Obviously your yard waste, but that would require shutting it down completely.
Right.
But probably not a good idea.
Because I think we budgeted 18,000 last year, and we actually spent more than that. So I did bump that up to 20,000 to bring it into what we're actually spending. So
Yeah, I mean we did almost 18. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that money that the library fund has for?
well, when they redid the library, Rober's donated $50,000, $10,000 a year over 5 years for improvements to the library, etc. And we did get by with a well last year. Steve's still here. Yep. And how's it holding up now? Have you?
We haven't watered your lawn, so I don't know how
Yeah.
we would have to do that. It's not gonna hold up.
Yeah.
There's probably about $40,000 sitting in the reserve funds right now. you know, that's that
And I'm
money.
hoping I can get a well drilled for $5,000 there, but it depends on how deep they gotta go. Could be as high as 7 if they gotta go deeper, but,
Get bids.
yeah.
Or it could just be something wrong with the pump too, I mean.
Well, yeah, we could pull the pump and see, but, yeah.
My Sharon Street house, it was $5,000 for everything, new tank and then all the drills.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, like I said, my budget is pretty static.
Could we take
What I can save, I'll save over the course of the year, but, you know, I pretty much budgeted what we think the costs are actually gonna be, so.
Can we take that off for the well for the library capital outlay and then, like you said, use that money from Rover's location?
Well, that's a board decision,
Yeah.
so. And there's no guarantee we'll have to replace it this year, I don't know, but at some point we're gonna have to. It might be better just to do it now and get it done with, but,
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't wanna do it when it's 10 below.
yeah. But yeah, we can take that capital outlay off. I don't think I have anything else budgeted for the library for capital outlay other than that well, that's,
Just the 5,000.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe put it up for bids, see what they charge for one.
You wanna keep it on there?
Well, I said, you know, if you want to spend the money out of that Rover's donated money, we can do that. I mean, but that's going to require a board vote on that, so, and I can take it out of there then otherwise.
Yeah, it just, that would be then part of the revenue on the, fund balance.
Fund balance, yeah. Somebody gonna make a motion?
You're gonna do it yet in 17, you're saying?
No, I'll probably do it in 18. We can get by with it, I think, through the winter months. It's in the summer where the problem arose when they started watering the lawn.
Mm-hmm.
It was tripping and it was sucking the hot water out of the hot water heater and spreading that on the lawn. So there's something wrong with the relay or something in there. So, but they did manage to get it working for a little bit, Steve, last year or something. I
It's
mean,
always worked, it's just
Yeah.
that issue that we're not, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm guessing what it is.
yeah,
I mean, if they're just using the toilet
yeah. If they're just
here and there.
Just
upward.
inside the building, it doesn't affect the well. It's when we water the grass that it creates the problem. So,
If they're having problems with purification, maybe maybe we could check the put on, so that at least we're not getting hot water out there.
yeah,
You just put that on top of the tank? Can't backfeed out?
yeah.
Chad, do you need a motion to remove something off of?
No, I mean a motion to use the Rover's funds if we need to replace the well.
We don't know what it's gonna be, I mean, do we
Well,
top it out at 7, or do we?
I would think we could get a well drilled up there for less than 7. But
Well, my understanding was that Rover's money was always gonna be left up to the supervisor in charge, so I don't necessarily know if you need a board motion
Okay, well, good.
for it.
Good. Well, then I can take the 5,000 off for the library capital outlay. I think.
We'll just move that
Yep, I'll just move
right
that.
off. I mean, you can still budget for it and just have it as,
You just know where it's coming from.
Well, if we need to get under the cap, that's the way we can get under the cap, I guess.
well, why don't you still budget the 5,000
Okay.
for it? Cause I'll offset it on the other side with 5,000 from
Okay.
fund balance.
All right.
At least that way it's budgeted.
It's budgeted
If you
and-
decide to do it.
It's a net,
Yeah.
they're a net zero.
It's a net zero, yeah. So we'll keep it on there, but, yeah.
Okay.
We're getting down to $4,175, but what can we add some things back on that, like Kelsey was talking, that she'd really like to go move forward and then take a few dollars out of the general fund? Or can't we do that?
What's that question?
You know, we're getting down to where we're about $4,175 over, but
And that's taking everything that I wanna do away.
that's taking everything, right?
For now, yeah.
That's taking the parking lot away out there, that's taking the fire truck away, and that's taking away all the park projects you want to do, yeah. And we're still 4,000 over.
So he's asking us, do you have like a
But now
priority of your list?
let's add something back on now. And then we'll still be over, but we can take some money out of the general fund to make this work.
Well, how much you talking about wanting to take?
Well, to be fair, we still need to look at the fire departments.
Okay.
Yeah,
Budget.
we haven't looked at their budget yet, yeah.
Just like last year, I think there's some room for a little bit there. I know on the fringe side again, you put 7,500 again. We really honestly don't need to have it that high anymore.
So, just refresh me what comes out of the fringe check.
It's your Social Security, it's your FICA taxes basically. Back in the day, it used to cover the difference from the retirement when the fire dues used to be say $8,000, but the town was still kicking in the 11,000 or whatever it was. That difference used to come into there, but now that we've exceeded those numbers, you really don't have to.
So as long as we're covering the Social Security and FICA.
That's all it is right now. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think you're safe to bring that back down to like the 3,500 from last year numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, it shows here.
Yeah, because at the end of October, we were at 2,524, so we were well under that 3,500, so.
Okay. Thank you.
I did make one additional change. We do have to budget 38,000 in the general ops because that 7,500 is for that code red.
So you bumped it up to cover the code red?
Yes. Yep.
And that, okay, so we had in the proposal 35, so you added the 7,500 for code red. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And you didn't have that code red budget anywhere else?
No, and actually, so last year we took, it was almost a 13% cut off the top, and then we added code red on top of that that wasn't included in the proposal.
Oh.
I'm glad to see that it's included here, and if we want to put it there going forward and we've added funding for it, I'll just add that to the proposals going forward.
Yeah, as far as I've been here, it's always been included in the fire department general ops. That's that code red. So there's really no other place to put it, and I don't know. It doesn't really matter.
Originally that was an emergency management expense. Because
Oh, was it?
Hit all departments, but it doesn't matter as long as we have funding to cover them. We're not trying to take away from equipment to cover it. So that's fine.
I know last year we flip-flopped the gas and oil and equipment repair again. I would probably suggest, because you don't use as much gas as that, but you may want to flip-flop and give yourself more on the maintenance equipment repair.
So we're just one or two incidents away from using more gas and oil. We've been fortunate because we haven't had that this year. But I understand what you're saying because maintenance is usually an issue.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate this year we haven't had a big hit on truck maintenance, but those can usually get pretty high when we have those kinds of issues.
I just look at like in 16 you spent $13.75 in fuel. This year you're at like $9.17. You know, and it's up to you, I guess. Me personally, I'd rather have it more in the maintenance than the fuel. Give you that.
So what would we adjust maintenance to?
Well, your equipment repair, I just flip flop them again, so you get
So it'd be
$3,000 for gas and $4,000 for equipment repair.
okay.
So it's not taking away it, but it's just allocating the funds differently. Because I just don't think you're going to use that much gas. You just never have.
If we've got room there and we're showing a history, that makes sense. We can contribute.
Training and schooling, I know that's a tough one.
Honestly, that's an area where I really would rather not take the hit if we're not required to. The reduction last year in that budget area just made it so that we couldn't do any training that wasn't company level training.
Mm-hmm.
If we take the fringes off, we're down to $675 and we're over.
I know where to make that up.
Where
The rest of it. Actually, I know where to get our surplus. Depends on how much you want.
A surplus was still my whole, everything I want to do non-existent.
Well, the surplus would
I mean, I
come
just want to
back.
remind everybody,
Yeah, the surplus would come
that's
back.
going to be very disappointing,
This-
considering how far we've come.
I won't, I'm good at math, but I won't be able to figure, but remember, we also, these numbers are reflective on the 1.5, so there is
Yeah,
a
there's
slight,
gonna be a little adjustment
slight
upward.
adjustment on that as well.
Kelsey, it's not against your skill and expertise in budget.
Excuse me.
I said it's not. I don't you take it personal on
Well,
here.
I mean, we've come so far this year with everything that we've done, and now it's like, let's take 4 steps backwards.
Well,
That's okay, I'll field all the phone calls to you guys.
Bob, you
Because I ain't
said
taking the
you
rap
used
for that.
where we could save a little more?
I am looking at. I gotta go back and find it now. I know Chad's gonna throw darts at me once I get there. The technology budget.
No, actually, you're correct, Bob. I think we can bring that down to 20,
Yeah.
if you're good with that.
I think so. I mean, we'll know again, but
Yeah, I think we can go from 30 to 20 on that this year.
So that means that, we can put 10,000 easily more into Park and Rec?
Not yet.
Okay.
you gotta adjust that.
We got to adjust the wage scale, and
2%.
Nate, I see on the first responder wages, you're budgeting 18,300. We did 17,500 this year in the budget, but our projected year-end expenses are 11,000.
Our call volume has been down this year from last year.
Okay.
That's
Is there any room there? I mean,
you could,
I know it all goes on call volume.
so that number last year was based on the 2016 call volume. Is that right? So we're at 14. I would say maybe 1,500 to move. I mean, it's a number of people that respond and number of
Yeah.
calls that affect that.
Yeah. You can kind of manage that though too.
To some degree.
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah. To make sure that we're not overstaffing incidents that don't need that amount of staff. So you think you could do that to 16,000? You said 1,500 off that? Or I'm sorry, that would be 16,500, right?
Well, the other piece that affects that is this is a refresher year too, and that is included in
Okay.
the budget. So let me just see what the refresher costs are. So 3,000 of that was refresher
For the
costs,
refreshers. Well, then we're getting,
and that hits every other year.
yeah.
That wouldn't come out of the general training and schooling budget.
Separate budget.
Well, maybe we better leave that in there.
So that comes out of the general ops, is what you're saying?
No.
Yeah, for the EMS side.
Okay. Yeah.
But if we'll be at 11, I think we could still do 1,500.
1,500 off that to drop it to 16,800, would that be?
Oh, off of wages,
Yeah.
1,500. Yeah.
So 16,800 there. Okay.
So we have $20,825 to the good. Right, Jan?
Well, you probably have to knock a few thousand off that, probably 17
Sure.
with a wage adjustment.
I'll just go 2,000.
Yeah, you better go more than that.
That's more.
I think you better go closer to 5.
The 5 with
Yeah.
the changes we made.
Yeah.
The other one, MTU, they don't have, I got the numbers today. These are very tentative from the MTU. City Council has approved these on the 14th actually, but he's thinking 37,943, so almost another 1,000 there in expenses as far as that goes. I should have those numbers as soon as they approve it next week.
Okay.
So you're thinking like 1,000 more than talking, huh?
Yeah, almost. That's what he's thinking. That's what Jim's thinking, anyways. The other one that we need to look at is the rec programs. So, I know we had originally anticipated 3,500 in revenue, but we're also talking about increasing the fees as well, right? So that would be more revenue, which would help cover some of that expense, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how many kids want for
Sign up, right? You don't know exactly what it's gonna be till you know the number.
So you just want to keep it at 3,500 in revenue, and
You want me to give you guys some more money? Because I'm not giving you enough.
no, I'm saying in revenue.
No, your revenue side.
Revenue,
Do I want some more? No, because I don't think I'm gonna get more than that.
even if we increase. No.
We can't charge people $200 to send them kids to play kickball.
Well, you could.
Didn't even have zero response on that.
Yeah, unfortunately, we only got about how many responded to the poll? About 28.
I don't have exact numbers, but I ended up getting like 50 emails in mine.
Wasn't a big response, unfortunately. But yeah, your hazardous waste one here. I changed that from what you submitted because that's the actual figure for what it was this year.
Okay,
Yeah.
Chad, right now I'm at,
you talking, but they bumped that up a quarter. didn't they?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
$1.50 now, and then it would go up.
Yeah.
What was it, a nickel? I think every
Nickel a year till 2022 or something like that, yeah. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm at 14,825, and we haven't yet to spend. After we took out the wages for 5,000, 1,000 for MTU.
Bonuses all around.
Yeah.
And the parks will go to, you know where.
Kelsey, I was thinking, prepaid basketball courts, picked up Plainview Park Shelter, which would come to 20. And then we take 5,000 out of the reserve.
Well, I'd like to,
You tell us.
no, I want more than that.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anything with any drainage issues that we have so far. And I know that playground equipment's important and docks are important and all these things, but I don't know.
Well, we haven't talked about the funding for the trees as well.
Yeah.
For that.
Yeah, or the lot.
That's where I was hoping that 50,000 loan.
Yeah, me too. That would have been great if that was
And
paid
the
off.
trees have
But
to be taken care of right away. They've been standing there forever now. I mean, can't you omit that for another year?
The trees are a big issue. I get several phone calls of people worried that are taking them down with their own money because they're gonna fall.
We took ours down with our own money.
yeah, if we just don't do anything for a while, it just keep taking it
That's
down.
nobody's-
My neighbor did.
Mine were right out
Took
of
two of them
We
down.
gotta-
Mine were right out of
we
property.
paid
I
to have
never
the
thought
trees
of
surveyed, you know how many trees there are, there's 77,
Sure.
spelling is
You
500.
should put them on the ground on that.
So, it's something that needs to be done,
Charge.
it's more of a liability for the town. If they
just double
fall on
check, but
something
I'm-
or a house or-
I don't think so.
Well, I realize that, but, I mean, they've been standing there now with that disease for how long?
Yeah.
Nobody
Well,
knows
you said
how
you
long
just
they've
come
had
in
the
and
disease.
drop them.
They've been standing there and standing there. Can't we just put off the trees another year?
Is everybody just Drew? Is everybody good with the police?
Yeah.
Anything?
I can see around. I don't know.
If I'm here, Drew's here.
All right.
Okay.
Some crowd control here.
Well, so for reserve fund expenses, one time kind of expense, right? 70 what? We don't.
Well, we estimated 70,000 to pave the lot out there. And then Kelsey's got 35,000 for the trees roughly.
I estimate 46,000, but that is without, that's not like I'm not a tree expert.
Yeah.
That's just going off of an average. I haven't gotten bids because we haven't gotten the okay to do that or anything. So
Do people charge for bids?
some do, some don't.
We should get some of those that don't get some bids.
Are we including grinding the stump and everything? or-
I would include that, yes. I have had several phone calls of people that want the firewood, so we wouldn't have to pay for all of it.
Yeah, I'm sure getting rid of the wood is probably gonna be easy.
That's how Woody's Tree Service in La Crescent, Dave, his guys take the wood.
Yeah.
They all
There's
burn
people here
wood.
that live here on the island that
So-
have called me that want the wood and they're retired and they can come at any time.
And that's why he charges so much less than everybody else to remove trees, because they take the wood. So that would solve the wood problem. Yeah.
That'd be the way to do her.
I just like Bertie because he doesn't.
Yeah. Well, if you're just gonna drop them, like you say, and have people take the wood, then that might be the people that go.
Well, right, but Verdict doesn't climb either, does he?
No, he's got a
Right.
truck.
He's got a bucket.
And then there's,
He can park right on the road
But
and take his own truck home.
Not being unfair to Troy, because I like him, he's a hard worker, but
he did my tree.
for my tree it was $750 and Woody's did it for $300. So $450 difference. You know, that's quite a savings. But it's because he takes the wood that, you know, then you don't have that problem to deal with either.
But
Well-
Woody's won't be able to take it because technically that would be transferring over. Can't take county line, right?
50 miles I think it is, isn't it?
I thought it was county line.
I thought it was county line as well, but I could be wrong.
I don't know where his guys live, we have to find that out, I guess.
I mean, I'm
Well,
sure
you live here. If you took yours.
My tree wasn't diseased.
I stayed on.
You didn't have an ash tree.
Yeah.
So what is the consensus then on the fire truck? Is that something we're gonna look at for funding for 2019 then, or?
Well, it'd be more viable in 2019 than it is this year, unfortunately.
So if you look at, you look at the retired debt, that's where we had that conversation earlier. And this goes to, I know Lee asked the question and Tony did too, is, you know, that replacement. Freaking mosquito in November. The replacement plan, I mean, that's kind of where those things came up. A little bit of skipper liner loan payoff, and that all comes back into town.
Well, that gives you room in the levy for next
Right,
year.
right.
Yeah.
So I guess how do we do that where we say here's this strategic budget for that, because knowing that it takes them a year to spec that out. Do you approve it this year? See, my thing on that is you approve it this year in the budget, knowing that that's how you're going to pay for it. That's all I'm saying. But
Well, if it's gonna take a year, I would say then, and we're gonna wait until that loan pays off, I would say you come back in April at the board meeting, approve the purchase of it and allow, approve them to go ahead and start the process. Come October, November, we get the loan and then we're ready to roll in 2019. We have the loan, payment hits 2019, the other one falls off, we're good to go. And then they have their year to however long it takes.
yeah, and I mean, I'm just
Keep in mind, we need to save some of that money too for street improvements. 'cause
Oh,
we
yeah,
got some
no,
streets that still need done.
You look at
Yeah.
we're not using the whole thing. Plus, we got the other. What's the other? The dump truck being paid off in 2019.
2019, so in 2020,
You got 30.
we'll have another 30,000, but
But we also need to replace that 92 Ford out there in the maintenance.
I got an
he's
idea.
got an idea for that.
Okay.
That might,
Okay.
So I have in the utility budget, which is coming up. I've got capital outlay in there. I had capital. I had lift station expenses. We're moving it to capital outlay.
and just pay
And
cash.
pay cash for our new truck. We'll retire the utility or the sewer utility truck. We'll transfer it to the
Maintenance department.
Maintenance department.
and then they could do what they want with it, put a box on or whatever, budget for that. And
Yeah. So I think
so we got that.
I think we're good on that.
Sweet deal, Steve.
He
Yeah.
just wants one
Huh?
that sits a little lower, like the old Ford.
But if you put in a work order then in April, how long does it take?
Ford sat lower, so when you're working on the street and road.
It depends on the manufacturer. And, you know, usually it starts as a specking process, and the rough estimate is it takes about a year to spec. But as far as, you know, getting to drawings and specifications that would be, you know, vote on some product, that would be later. So, I don't know, 6 months maybe.
When do they require payment? When you put the order in or when you pick it up?
There's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but most often there's a certain percentage due at the time of manufacture and a certain percentage due at the time of delivery.
Okay.
So we would want to do it that way to protect our investment.
He said too,
So if that's the case, so then you might want to, yeah, I mean, we would get paid back for it. The reserve fund would get paid back, but you would want to
That's right.
capital budget some form of payment then. If we're going to do kind of a, you know, if they're going to want half down in 2018, we just wouldn't get paid back in our reserve until we took that loan out in October or whatever.
When is that? After this year, we get that 50, right? So this is the last year, 2017.
2018 payment in March will be the last one.
is
So
yeah.
we don't get the reprieve from that until next budget session, 2019. So if they were to put in a work order for it in April and they required payment in August, we would have to pay something, and that would come from reserve. Although we would get the money back as soon as we took out the loan, you know, a few months later. But we should probably then budget something for it if, in anticipation for payment. I don't know how much, but
Depends on how you finance it.
yeah. And then if we do a 10-year note, or if we're doing, you know, if we're anticipating 150 from reserve because that's what we had put in before. So now we're down to 350 on a note over 10 years. You know, a payment on that's probably going to be 32,000 roughly, maybe.
Just looking for a way to pay for it that doesn't kill us or that doesn't, you know, as those other ones come off. I mean, that's typically where we just exchange those payments for.
Well, and we wouldn't see a big hurt on that if we capital outlaid 250,000 because that's what we're anticipating paying next year, and we revenue side the 250. All it is just, I mean, they're crossing each other out. So
On paper,
on paper, we're gonna get we're gonna pay 250 out of the reserve fund. We're gonna write a check, but we're gonna get 500,000 back from the loan that we take out for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in a perfect world, it'd be great if they take 100% payment at time of delivery, but you know better than I do if they will even do that.
Yeah, when we bought our last truck with a grant, which would have been guaranteed from the government, the federal government, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Even though they knew they had the money guaranteed.
It's almost earnest money kind of for the manufacturer. They know they're getting something to cover manufacturing costs, material costs. Then they issued, upon the delivery, they issued the remaining.
Yeah, I'm just saying in the case of the grant, they knew the money was guaranteed and they still wouldn't do it.
They still wouldn't do it. They knew the money was guaranteed from the federal government.
The risk is that they end up like the situation Skipperliner was in, where they spend a lot of money manufacturing something and the customer doesn't pay them and they're stuck with that asset.
The only downside is the last round of loans that we took out for the street project cost us $130,000 a year. So you do have to recognize that if we're gonna spend 35,000 on that payment once we take that loan out for the next road project, you know, you're probably,
We're gonna be looking at a big tax.
you're gonna see a big tax increase.
Yeah, probably pushing 12%, just doing it quick in my head.
That's where you guys get to make those
Yeah.
decisions.
What's the one for the streets and roads? You said 150?
Well,
No, it's 130 a year over 5 years.
yeah, when we took out that 550, it was about 130,000 over 5 years.
That was another loan that we redid.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're what, in year 3 next? Year will be year 3?
Yeah.
We didn't raise anybody's taxes by, we just,
No, because we paid off.
It was a debt swap.
There was a debt. Yeah, it was a debt swap. It just happened to time out perfect on that one.
Yeah. And we're what, year 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. 2018 will be our third payment out of 5.
next year we can send maintenance guys out to start looking at roads, which ones are gonna be next. Keep that project going.
Or no, I'm sorry. Second payment. 'Cause we did.
Is it only the second?
It'll be the second
Yeah,
payment.
because we just
Oh.
got, yeah, because we just got it, you just started it last year.
Yeah, it'll be the second payment.
So we did the debt swap on that, we have 4 more years on it, 4 more payments basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll take it out again or redo it for the next,
See, the plan with in a perfect world, we would have done what we did last time. We would have done a small $100,000 loan this year to cover the engineering of the project.
yep.
Next year, you take out the big loan for the project itself, and then you're only carrying both loans for 2 years. And then in 2 years, the first one is paid off, and you just kind of keep flopping them that way a little bit. But I don't think we're going to get to engineering this year, probably.
No.
So if we do take out a loan next year for projects in 19, it's going to be for the cost of the engineering and the roads. So it's going to be even a bigger loan than, unless you do less roads. I don't know what you got planned, but
I mean, that's where I'm at, is you got that potential option.
either way, there's going to be some debt. There's going to be some increased taxes. Unless you don't do the road project.
Gotta do that.
There's too many of them that gotta be done.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. We haven't been on a good schedule forever.
They need to routinely stay on the schedule because there's so many streets that are so bad that we can't, that's a priority. I mean, we can't neglect that. Well, where are we sitting now?
Well, we have 14,825, but like you said, we haven't done nothing for, the trees or parks or,
There's a lot out here.
a lot out here.
Yeah.
Like you said in your paperwork, the lot repair might have to come out of reserve if we're gonna do it.
I think that was the thing all along. I mean, if we get back down to the level that we were at a couple of years ago at about 850 in the reserve, we have about 350,000, that we could spend on projects that are there.
Well, what's the board's feeling on the reserve fund for the parking lot?
For the waste lot.
Waste lot.
Well, I know we held off on it last year because you had, what was it there, like 9,000 that you had or something that you were going to look, that we held over? Am I recalling that correctly?
No. There's going to be nothing left over this year. Is there?
No. From when you did the building project.
Oh, yeah.
That we basically put back in or whatever because we were going to have to take. knowing that we're gonna have to take that money out this year, or budget for it at some point.
Yeah. The engineering fees are already paid. That's been done, so it's just a matter of whether or not the board has the will to take it out of the reserve fund and spend it. But we can't keep operating out there like we're operating.
Well, that's the point, I guess for me, I mean, I don't like spending our money, but that's
Well, no one does.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
But, you know, things have been neglected here so long because everybody in the past has always tried to get by doing even less than the bare minimum, and now, unfortunately, we're the board that's stuck, you know, trying to catch up with some of this stuff.
Well, I mean,
within levy limits.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm an advocate of that, unfortunately,
Yeah.
but I know that waste site gets
heavily used.
Yeah. So that's a direct impact there, where people, the taxpayers, are gonna look at it, and go, okay, that's where that money went, right?
Right, and we held off putting the gate thing in there too while we.
Yeah, when they do that, we'll have to put the sensors.
The sensors, yeah. It didn't make sense to do that and then come back in and repave it, so.
So is that gate out there, is that supposed to be shut at night at 9 o'clock?
Yeah.
It would be if we had the sensors on it, but we don't want to shut it now or have it operate without the sensors, because if somebody's stuck in there, they're not getting out.
They're not getting out.
Until after December 1st.
Yeah.
December 1 it shuts down, then it's
Well, then
closed.
that would be their problem for going in there, right?
After that point, yeah.
Yeah.
If
You
you're
know,
not
we've-
stupid to go in there, then
We've had in the past, I know we've tried with the police department when they're here to have it shut at 9. Sometimes they're not on, sometimes they're on a call. I think there was some issues with it beeping or something too, wasn't it? Or
They disabled the beep and
no, it beeps again, doesn't it?
it's beeping again. It's
beeping
insane
again.
and loud. If I was living behind that, I'd be all sorts of pissed off if that thing was beeping at 10 o'clock. It's
Yeah.
really loud. But we can close it. I mean,
I don't know, why did we keep just
you
have it
guys told me
open
to
for a
stop
while?
Closing it because you didn't want someone stuck back there or something.
I don't know, I don't remember.
Well,
but December 1st is not an issue, then it stays closed anyway after at night.
Yeah.
You guys leave technically, right? Steve, you guys can close it.
Yeah, they can close it as soon as they leave for the day.
Because we can open it and quickly get back in.
So when are you talking?
3:30 after December 1st is when
After December 1st? It'll be closed all the time.
Yeah, actually, December 1st, it's closed all the time. Yeah.
Just gotta get remotes for everything.
so, comes down to, we gotta take care of the trees that are in our town property that are potential issue, and we have to pay a lot.
Like I said, you got about to get back to that level, you got about 350,000. If you got 70 plus the 61 for the remainder of the streets and roads project, about 50 for the trees.
I think that's very high, but it better be high then.
Yeah. That's almost
I mean,
200,000.
yeah, you wouldn't have to necessarily budget for it. I'd rather, I mean, if you're gonna budget something, and then if you gotta do a budget adjustment, it's coming from the same money anyway, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily use those monies. I would just put those in the fund balance and call it a day. I mean, those I think we've already anticipated we're going to come out of reserves. I mean,
I know, there's just no other way to pay for it.
no. I mean, the remainder of the streets and roads project that money was put into the reserves. So I mean, taking it out is
It's already allocated.
it's already allocated that way. So not a big deal.
So what is that roughly puts our fund balance at what? 385, you said?
No, 800,000
After?
We're at like 1.2. So if we
Okay.
did 350,000 from it, we'd still be at about 850 where we were
You're right.
a few years
that's
ago.
Right. That's where I was looking to get to. Okay.
Yeah. So if we spend 200,000, we're still more than where we were.
Well,
The problem is we're not going to be building that reserve fund up over the next few years either.
No.
Just because there's so much stuff we have to do.
I'm gonna say that
If everyone does their part, we
You
can.
can rebuild it.
Yeah.
We've done it in the past. We were way low. We were lower than that. And we built it up.
Yeah.
So you could definitely do it.
You know, it comes from the help from, you know, the fire, or the police department with wages and overtime and that, and the fire department managing, you know, maybe some call volumes and who goes out, and the maintenance guys doing
So-
less overtime, or, you know, I
Right.
mean,
So at the end of the year, when we get to the point where we didn't use the whole budget, it goes into the general
it
fund.
goes right, yeah, it goes into the general fund.
And that's, so,
You know, this last year, I think we were, I think it was $6,000 that we put in. This year, it's going to be close. I mean, everything even right now. I think I'm about $20,000 shy, but you know that in a month and a half can change very easily, depending on where everything is status quo.
As long as we don't have any unexpected.
Without any unexpected bills, I think we're right on track, and I think we're
It'll
doing
be just
good.
about break even, won't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the water.
So-
So it's not like we're putting away $100,000 a year, but you know, over, you know, maybe you can get 100,000 in 5 years. But everybody's got to do their part. They got to watch your, you know,
We should get a bill.
we're to the end of the year. We got an extra 20,000. Let's just go out and spend it because it's there. So we don't want to lose it kind of mentality.
Yeah, we
It's
don't do
gonna
that.
be.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, but it happens. You know what I mean?
Well, they left it
So-
just
Oh, they,
rock for a little bit. I don't know if it's covered it or not.
okay,
Well,
I don't know.
okay.
the part that parking lot trees, but I circle back on that. So if I'm doing that, if we're doing that, what do we do? I mean, trying to do something on that drainage. I just don't know what that is.
Right. We have drainage, we have parks, we have trees, we have lawn repair. Drain the whole town. Drainage, we don't know.
Well, here's a piece of information. So they're talking about the drain on the east side of Lake Shore and the west side of Lake Shore. The one on the east side draining into the one on the west, right? Did I get that correctly?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it starts at the north side of Plainview there and then goes underneath Plainview, but on the east side, and then crosses over Lake Shore there. That's what it does, isn't it? The gutters and stuff.
It all drains to that property.
To that same, yeah, to that corner there.
Well, what's it cost to stop that and just have a drain on stop French drain to, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, change that drain so it's not going under the street anymore?
Yeah, basin filtration, that location.
My only worry is that we caused another problem, and pretty soon we got two corners with a bunch of water on it. Because we plugged it, I don't know, maybe not.
I suggest you run it down to the warming house, make a retention pond,
I'm fine with that too.
and drain it all right there.
No, it's right there. It ain't,
We have the land.
we might be able to do both Delray and
You could take care of
it's
Delray
right in
and
between
that.
both of them.
Then you actually put them in and you pipe it right there.
Right.
Well,
That's what I'm
once it's
saying.
done, it's done. Those are two problems solved with one swing.
Because I know, like in our area, that's what they ended up doing. They came in and said everybody adjoining property, and they just scooped it out like 12 feet deep.
Yeah.
I'm in belief you can still drain it to the lake after talking with Cedar Corp over the years here, so.
You believe you still can?
Yeah.
Well, you can always
Like
drain it.
Hampton Street, we could have drained that all to the lake.
You can always drain it to the lake until the DNR finds out you're doing it.
Well, DNR knows everything you're doing. in these places.
Yeah, what's that?
DNR knows you're doing it. So,
Yeah, they charge you for it.
well, I don't know all that, but I know you can do it.
From a cost perspective, it's probably cheaper to not do it that way though.
So that road, that Plainview needs to be replaced anyway, it's shot. The road. And that's when you do it.
We gotta replace utility main in there?
See, the sewer mains are fine.
And that helped me out much.
So what's the word, capital outlay on the fire department truck? You want me to leave the 500? Want me to put something in there?
I don't need the 500 necessarily, but It's kind of the same. It's kind of I mean, just because it's semantics, really.
It is. I guess the big question is, are we getting the loan next year or not?
I just wish at the time we do commit to it, we actually had a loan that was retiring to,
We do know that we do.
Or we just,
2019 we do.
or we just keep it in there and show that we're taking 700,000 out of the reserve fund, and if we do, we do. We don't, we don't.
Well, kill our reserve. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, if we get, well, it would until we take the loan out to replace it.
welcome to the board. So, I know for a fact, I shouldn't say a fact, I know that we've been able to do that where we know it's retiring. Unless we earmark it for something, nothing changes. That's how it is, right? So, it's that strategic vision thing. How does everybody want to work with that, I guess, is what it comes down to. First piece would be, if we believe we need to replace a fire truck, and if so, how are we going to do it?
What kind of a truck are you looking at getting, Nate?
Engine,
Pumper truck or?
an engine, same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Well, other option would be you could pull it and budget adjust at another time.
Pull it and do it in all in 18, you mean? But then they're behind on stuck in the truck out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you would, you could do a meeting in
We could do a
January,
special meeting.
February. You know, you could do it as part of a regular board meeting early in the year.
No, I guess it definitely gives general voter electorate the opportunity to, I mean, even if it goes in the budget, they can still come and oppose it and say don't do it. Just because it's in the budget doesn't mean it's written in stone.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, also, yeah, does the board feel that the constituents need to have a referendum question about it?
Well, that's what I was going to suggest. The other option would be to do a referendum and
In April.
let the voters decide. I mean, you know, have some pictures and they can tour the existing truck and take a look at it and decide whether or not they want to spend the money.
Well, I would hope that the people over here would agree that they would rather see our firemen arrive in a safe truck
That's what I said. Put the
And
truck
take
on
care-
display and have them look at it.
and take care of us in a safe manner than arrive in that truck that's pretty much on its last leg.
Yep.
put it to referendum, and then that one loan will be retired. And then we'd have the option.
Well, you'd still have to budget adjust
You still
something
have to
because
budget
it
adjust,
sounds
yeah.
like you would have to make some sort of a payment
Payment to
regardless
them,
in
yeah.
2018.
In 2018,
Yeah,
Yeah.
of at least how much? Probably.
50%, I would guess.
Oh,
It depends, but each vendor has their own financing programs too. So depending on the vendor, we could ask them what it looks like and they give us all that information. Or they may lay out, a deck of options. It depends on where you finance, what kind of loan you get, what kind of terms you get, all those things.
Well, if the consensus then is a referendum, then we would just pull it from this budget at this point, wait until referendum, and then we can budget adjust. Because if it doesn't pass referendum, I mean, I guess it's just a recommendation. I mean, it's
Right.
it's not binding, but
Right.
well, we're one step closer to getting it done if we,
Right.
because the last 8 years, it's been just kicked down the road.
Right. Yep. And a referendum would give the voters an opportunity to decide rather than 30 people coming here and packing the room and saying, we don't want you to spend the money on the damn thing. and that's kind of the decision or input we get, I guess. And I think the April election would be a good time for it because there'll be a bigger voter turnout, and in the meantime, pictures of the truck and
Have some tours, open the door. and
yeah,
people come in.
yeah.
So I guess then the question, do we show it here or do we not? If we show it here, we're showing it as reserve funds being used because we're going to have to offset it.
If you're gonna do a referendum, I guess you may as well not put it in there, right?
That's what I would say. You just axe it right now,
Yeah.
wait till the referendum, and then you budget adjust if we need to.
Correct, yeah, that sounds good.
Who draws up the language for the referendum?
I'll put it
Okay.
together and
All
then present it to the board through a resolution
Yep.
and go through the whole process.
December's meeting or January?
Or
Could do
you
short
can make a
ones.
decision, put it in the budget, and then when you run for office, you'll know if, on the referendum if you get put it. Throwing that out there.
Yeah. From a time probably be January.
January. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, what are we gonna do with trees?
Trees and
Lot
lot.
repair?
Is there enough room in the levy with the money we've got left to do a short-term loan for the trees?
Well, like I said, you got almost $17
Yeah.
million of levy room, and
I know.
you could do so. If you wanted to do a short-term note, you could. $50,000 gonna.
Cover?
I mean, you're talking maybe 1.5%.
For the first half of the year? Or total for the year?
Total. So
Total for the year.
the payment would. Well, God, we're getting to that point. I don't know.
Just
if we
because
can afford
you don't want to dip the rest of that money out of the reserve, you're saying.
Well, if you do a short-term loan, it gets added right onto the tax levy. It gets paid off in the short term and it's gone.
Right. Sure.
So you don't touch the reserve fund for that, yeah.
I'm just thinking from a constraint point. Do we have time to even put together a short-term note this year?
That's what it's getting pretty late.
It is getting pretty late. I mean, you can always, just like anything, you could always next year reimburse the reserve fund with the loan next year. I mean, the statute's pretty lenient on that. You can take out loan for anything. So if you need to reimburse yourself from things that you spent 2 years ago, well,
You put it in there and make payments back to yourself.
Make payments back to yourself.
you know, exactly.
That's exactly what you're doing.
That's what
right?
you're doing. So.
Yeah.
But on a short-term note like that, you know, they 50,000. I think we spent. Oh, the interest was like $600, and they held the loan for 5 months. So I mean, it's pretty cheap.
And it doesn't affect the taxes all that much, and it's usually just the first half of the year.
Yeah, like I said, you'd see probably 1.5%
Yeah.
roughly increase, but pretty minimum.
Yeah. But then it's gone when the loan's gone. And it,
But that's another 50,000. So you tack that on to the street project, and you tack that on to, you know, fire truck payment, and all that stuff, and then those 3 payments add up.
yeah. Yeah.
But you got 50 and 30. I mean, you really coming back. It's just, can you hold off? How long you want?
Right? How long can you hold off?
Right.
And like I said, that street project's gonna. I mean, the street project, regardless, that loan, it's gonna gobble up your payment. I mean, that's just the nature of it. I mean, you start talking now, taking out the loan for another 550,000 plus the engineering, you're up to $750,000, and you got probably a $160,000 a year payment. And yeah, we're paying off one for 50 and one for 30, but you still got an additional 80 there. And that's just for the streets. So now we get a fire truck at, $36,000 a year. You know, payments, they all add up.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Well, you get the truck, you're saying, so you're gonna make a motion, we're good, we're just in the budget process, so you say, okay, you're gonna wait till April, put it in a referendum, so that part of the budget's done.
Yep.
We're gonna do the lot out of reserve or not?
And how much is a lot?
What's that?
How much was it again?
Approximately 70.
We're estimating 70,000.
I'm gonna say, so I think it's a good idea just because that's direct user interaction on that.
Yeah. And
We know it's a,
every year they go out there with their heavy equipment, they dig blacktop up and patched it $1,500 last week. And I mean, how many times are we going to keep doing that? You know,
I
you're
know.
going to run into.
I mean,
It should have been concrete to begin with.
well, and
Yeah.
it's changed use. I mean,
Yeah.
we've made it into the yard waste.
Yeah.
That's not what it was before. So
No.
it's getting, 10 times the traffic and use. So I say I'm thinking it's a good idea to get that. I know that you held off last year when we got done with the buildings, put that money back into the general fund. So we kind of already have that. So in my mind, that money's still sitting there that you're going to couple with the other
How much was left over after the building?
9,000 something, 9,200.
9,200, I think.
9,000?
Consensus. Kelsey, good?
And then if you want to do, whatever you want to do on the tree thing, because I know we've had people in here, and if you get the big windstorms or whatever, it's not like they're completely ever going away. We got to do them sometime. I don't know. Is it this year, next year? I guess that's up to everybody. But
I think we're really behind the time. I mean, we need to get brought back up.
Yeah. And 76 is a reasonable number. I thought it was going to be much higher.
Yeah, 77.
77, okay. So I think La Crosse is doing 1,500
trees,
ash trees, yeah.
I'm gonna pull that 11,000 from the general buildings. That again was for the system, unless everybody. Although I really still would love a new.
pull it, and then we know if it fails, we got to pay for it anyway, and then we can rebudget it.
That's true. That's true. Although that doesn't give me. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah. And we know at the end of the year, if everybody manages their budget, don't spend it dry, then
There might be enough left in there.
we recoup that. anyway,
Sure.
so.
Yeah.
So what number do you want me to put in for the trees? What do you think a fair
Well,
number
I think
would be?
high would be 4,600, but I think low.
46,000.
46,000, sorry. Low, like if we were to look at Woody's at $350 a tree would make it 28,000.
That'd be awesome.
So I
If you can
mean,
do it.
if you want me to call people tomorrow, I will. I have no problem with that.
Well, I still think we need to put the 46 in there. If it comes in at 28, I mean,
I think that's just really high, but I think I agree with you. I think
then we don't have to spend it. I mean,
Right now, we're at 25,825 that we can spend it after Chad took that 11,000 out. So we could allocate this 25 towards ash trees and.
what
Don't
about
forget
her,
about the parks.
what about our park
I mean,
stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last one
Otherwise, you guys are
here.
just gonna pay me to sit here. And,
What trees? Got to take anything trees.
I know these guys are we good with them? I know that they've been sitting here patiently. And it's late.
Yeah, and you ran out of time.
I still got an hour and 52 minutes.
It's at 10:05.
Well, we stopped when we were in
Stopped
closed
in
session.
closed session, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel bad for you guys, so. Anybody wanna keep them here?
Steve and Drew, if you want to go, you can go.
You're welcome to stay, absolutely.
I said I can't leave.
What's that?
You said I can't leave.
Okay.
I know my role. I've been it for a long time.
Well, I'll make a motion then that we pull 70,000 from the reserve to replace the lot out there. And what are we gonna do on the trees then? Are we gonna include that in there, or are we gonna do a short term on that, or? You probably don't have enough time to do that though.
Are you want to make a motion? I mean, we're just doing the budget, right?
We're just doing the
That's
budget.
right,
There's no
yeah, we're
motion.
just doing the budget, yeah, yeah,
I think the consensus is to just budget 46,000, and if we spend it,
yeah,
it's coming from the reserve. If we don't, it's
yeah.
right.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I mean, because the only other option is for the board to go, yeah, it's great, we did the survey, but we're just not gonna do anything about it. I mean,
With what, the trees?
with the trees, yeah. I mean, that's your only other option, is not to do any tree cutting.
They're gonna have to come down at some time. I mean, they're all dead, and they're on town property, and they're eventually gonna start to crumble. So I mean, how long that'll be, I don't know. Could be one storm if it's bad enough.
It'd be great if we could get the 25,000 price. It'd be
Well, I was
awesome.
just going off of what Woody has done. You said Dave, I didn't realize it when he said Woody. He's cut trees down before for us.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a decent-
Dave's his real name.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just know him by Woody.
yeah.
So what we have to do is come to a consensus on this. We would agree that this is going to be our budget, then we have to publish it.
I'll have to publish it. I need it requires at least 15 days prior. Anticipating hopefully the 29th of this month for our budget hearing. And then that would give me enough time to get to Pam down at the county, get the numbers inputted so they can print them the following week, and we can get them out in the mail by the 8th of December, which is about the last day that I want to get them in the mail. Anything later, we're going to start getting pretty antsy.
So we don't actually, we do move to accept this as we've completed it. We
No,
just
time
don't
out.
adopt it till
What
the,
about
Correct.
No, we're not done with the park.
But we're not done with the parks capital outlay yet.
yeah, we're done with parks. You guys do what you want with it.
I mean, there's probably, just based on the numbers that have run here, there's going to be a little bit of tweaking that will be presented, at the budget hearing. But
Right.
for the most part, what you've adopted,
We're gonna be
adopt
pretty
these.
close.
You'll be pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
And really, if there's anything that out of the ordinary, I can get with Terry or whatever. And if we need to meet again, we can. But I don't anticipate that. These are pretty solid. This is pretty good.
Like I said, we got 25,825 for the good, but if we're gonna pull that other stuff out of reserve to go towards capital outlay for the parks, but how much more do you want to spend?
Well,
Well, Kelsey,
I don't want to spend any money out of the reserve. We got to pave the lot. We got to take down the trees.
Okay.
Parks are important. Maybe just not as high priority on the list. So
I'll see the floor here.
I said what I've said.
Yeah,
I believe that it's very disappointing. We're going backwards with it after such a great year. Like I did say, we'll funnel all phone calls to you for. I'm not going to say I'm going to be happy with anything, because that's a lie. I want something, and I want it to be enough for me to make some changes.
If you prioritize, which ones would you want to know?
I want 30,000 at least, so I can replace some park equipment.
Okay.
And that's just a guesstimate. I mean, to buy equipment, if you can get it on sale at a good price, is 20,000, and then to have it installed is an additional 7,000-8,000, and then we have to put the barrier down, and that can be, I'm not even sure what the one at Big West was. Yeah. So I'm still going under, hoping to get something a little bit smaller.
My little guy and I, we go eat that park. So we see us walk by there all the time. Yeah, we're at, I got 25,825. Could we go with the 30,000 for the new park equipment at Second Avenue?
Does that 25 include the trees, or is the trees coming right out of the budget?
The
or
tree
we
doesn't
taking-
come out of my budget.
No, not out of your budget.
No, we've talked about the reserve
Okay,
using
that's
that.
what we're taking out of the-
You just don't have a funding source for that kind of stuff, and unfortunately,
Yeah, sure, put it in my budget, but I'm not cutting down.
nope. It's on. I got it on a different line item. Don't.
$70,000 coming out of the reserve fund. We're talking twice that then, correct?
Right now, yeah.
70,000 for the.
Right now, we're talking 70 for the lot, 46 on the high end for the trees, 61 for the remainder of the streets. So, and then plus 5,000 for the library, and then plus whatever you guys decide for Parks and Rec.
But you say we still got 25,000 to work with.
That's what I come up with after, we had 20,000, then we took 5,000 off for the wages, 1,000 more for MTU, and then, Chad took that 11 off for the building repairs, which brought us up to 25,825.
Can you take another 10 or 15 out of the reserve fund and put it towards that 25 to give to Kelsey?
Maybe that would repair the park shelter plus some new equipment at Second Avenue East.
We also need to keep in mind that I did purchase new basketball hoops, and they are going to be going in, or should be going in, or will be going in next spring. We thought we were maybe going to get it paved yet this year, out of my budget this year, but that's not going to happen. So, you know, you guys aren't the only ones that have plans. So, the community's changing. I'm not sure if you all have noticed, but the elderly are starting to pass away, and the younger families are coming in, and they're not going to come if we don't have. I mean, obviously they're not going to come if we don't have sewer. I get that, or a police department or a fire department. I understand that, but
The person that was here before you said it was the opposite. That's kind of funny.
You said it's getting older?
Yeah, that's what we said. That's why they got rid of all the park stuff and everything. Because the kids were declining.
they got rid of all the park stuff because people needed it elsewhere, and why not take it from the park?
Yeah, that's Park's always got robbed.
Yeah.
It's just, it was that way years before we
You know,
got.
I'm glad it's very entertaining to some people, but it's very frustrating for me. So.
Yeah, it's not meant to be a departmental battle. It's just the budget.
No.
It's just the budget.
Turns into a departmental battle. Take from one to give to the other.
Yeah. Like I say, I'm figuring $25,825, and can we take $5,000 out of the reserve and move it towards capital outlay for parks? How much did we put in parks last year? Capital outlay.
I had a lot. It was, you guys.
55,000.
On board prior set it up well. That's why I don't want to go backwards.
Well, the part I just know that this stuff all has limited life cycle, unfortunately, as everything does, and it is very demographically affected. So we see that. I mean, the population gets older, and gets younger, gets older, gets younger. So to perpetually budget 55,000, to me, I don't see that in Park and Rec as all. So that's just my difference in budgeting, how I see it.
Suggestions, Chad? You're usually a little quieter.
This one's touchy. It's a touchy subject. I see that personally. I see the need for it. I've seen the Parks Department neglected over the years. But in the same token as well, it is a budget, and it's tough to balance it. So, do I see resealing at the basketball courts needed? Absolutely. Do I see the Plainview Park Shelter getting a remakeover that maybe we can start renting it out, which may entice other organizations to come and use Plainview, which maybe we can rent out for a weekend tournament. Some of these are pretty small. I don't know. I see the need for it. We fought hard to get the Parks and Rec, and I think we did a great job putting that park together out at church. But I do see the demographics as well too. So it's tough. It's really tough for me to say yes or no on this one. I get it. The budgets are tight, and unfortunately, over the years, and Bob knows as well as anybody, I think the Parks and Rec Department always, you know, when it came time to take money from them, unfortunately, the Parks and Rec Department got hosed. So I was extremely excited last year when we were able to put some money back into it, and we were able to do some nice things, and I'd like to continue that, but when you need to pull money, sometimes that's the easiest place for people to take from, and it's not fair. I wish we had the extra cash that we could keep it in there.
Got anything, Mitch, you wanna add to that?
No, I'm not opposed to pulling another 5,000 out of the reserve, though, to upgrade the equipment there.
Thank you.
So,
You wanna,
how about you?
well,
No.
okay.
Do you want to budget 30,000, 35,000?
No, there's
Capital
25,000 left, so we'd only be 5,000 more out of the reserve.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it's maybe the viewpoint. I kind of look at the 25 as if we didn't spend out of the budget, means, you know, ultimately 25,000 less that we spend on the parking lot. So that's,
But we're not all done here anyway, since Chad takes us back and starts working on it.
yeah, I know.
We're gonna look at it.
Right.
We might have to make adjustments to it yet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be pretty darn close to where you need to be. Any final tweaks or adjustments can be done at budget hearing. So if it's all right with all of you, so we don't have to meet again prior to that, I'll put the numbers in. I'll put what's the numbers that the reserve would have to pull from, and if anything, you might have to do a couple tweaks here and there. But I think from budget perspective, I think we're pretty close.
I'd like to meet again. I want some more money.
Honestly, I don't know if we don't really have the time unless you want to get together tomorrow night.
Sure.
And make it Thursday night. At least you get an extra day.
Well, Thursday would be ultimately better, but I do need to be out of here by 7. So if we could meet early, then that's fine.
We're coming here for me to tell you that I want more money. So I mean, you can make the
I
decision
work till
tonight,
4.
or we can come back on Thursday.
I'm okay with tonight being in.
I mean, I got till 6:30 in the morning tomorrow.
Yeah. More money is and how much
I'm passionate about doing the things that need to be done. Otherwise, it's just going backwards.
And when, it's not true, because we're not talking about drainage one little bit, so we're not really talking about what needs to be done. We're talking about things that would be very nice if they were done, but not needs. That's
I believe
the
it's a need.
difference.
I believe it's a need.
I'm all about kids, I'm all about parks and recreation and all these things, and there's nothing bad on what you're asking for, they're great things. But, and I'll say the same thing, you also are sending phone calls to you.
All the drains.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you want, and it's not, like I said, they're great things.
No, I respect your opinion. I just
I just don't know where you think this money is gonna come from for it.
I guess we need to find it, don't we?
We have to cut from someplace else to make everything happen. Or pull it from reserve.
I don't know.
So what are we waiting for?
Are we gonna meet tomorrow then, or
Or Thursday? Next Thursday?
Thursday's
Like I
fine?
said, we're coming back for me to tell you I want money.
Can
So
we come in earlier on Thursday?
This is, so you're gonna get the spreadsheet updated, what we're actually taking out.
I'll re-put these numbers in as presented tonight, and then,
Think you can have it done by Thursday?
yeah.
How late do you work on Thursday, or can you do
I'm usually going about 5:30.
5:30? So we'll make a 5:30 meeting then, or?
That would be great.
Yeah.
You gotta be out of here at 7, right?
I gotta be somewhere at 7.
So what exactly is the meeting that we're gonna be talking about Thursday?
More or less look at the numbers and
Finalize.
finalize.
We are gonna finalize?
Also,
Well, you don't have any choice, it's gotta be. I mean, by Thursday, we're running out of time. it's got to be done, or it gets done right now. I guess we don't have enough time to publish and approve the budget and get it submitted. Is where we're at. Because when tax bills get late, you're gonna get calls. That I guarantee. So
And it's too late to do short-term loans too, really.
It really is. I mean, unless you want to do more special meetings. And I love this time of year. I love seeing you 8 times in a month, but
Yeah, right.
yeah.
So Thursday, 5:30.
Okay. Put something together. 9, 17, 5:30. Okay. I will have something. Hopefully I'll have something tomorrow night. If you want to maybe pop in, you can maybe hopefully pick it up and look at it tomorrow night before you come in. I will have it. I will have it done tomorrow. So, with all the updated things. So yes, please come in, take a look at it then tomorrow night. So when you get here,
Maybe you can make some suggestions to us, and maybe do something else.
sure can. All right, on to the utility one. This one should be easy.
everything pretty much as presented. We did move some stuff, just the capital.
Could you? Fuck. Bet you Nate's probably leaving for the night, isn't he?
He's on the hallway now, you want him?
I don't know how long. Do you know how much longer he's staying? Is he? Never mind. Never mind. I'll ask Ralph. Ralph can pass it on. I got.
He's right here.
No. This is not an open. I'll ask you
Okay.
later.
He's on his
before we
way
leave.
back in.
See you, Drew.
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I'll just ask Ralph here if you got to take off and stuff.
Oh, is there?
No, I think you're good. Thank you, sir. We're gonna wait till you get down the hallway again.
No. All right. Only 3 pages instead of 9, so should be pretty quick, right?
I don't have my little worksheet with, but I know when we talked today, Chad, the capital outlay equipment
Yes.
is going to go from 0 to 60.
Yes, we're going to put 60 in there, which
Right.
means we still have 22,606 to play with.
Right, so then we're going to move that to lift station repair, if I remember right. Was that correct?
Yep, so we'll go from 15,000, and we're going to add the 22,606, so it'll be at 37,606. And that, my friends, balances the utility budget.
The wage change.
The wage change, yep, I'll make those changes, so that will reflect then, we'll just lower that lift station down based on whatever that is, right?
There it is.
Yeah, very minor thing.
Yep. Just the part that the utility has to absorb or reflect. Whatever that is, take it out of that.
Yep. The rest of the utility board good with that? His is, again, obviously one of the more easy. I mean, there isn't a whole lot there that you can mess up. I mean, you know what the expense is. Very fixed. Probably the most fixed that you're ever going to see. So
You could overspend it.
you could.
You guys keep that from happening. Yes. So.
But the revenue sources, those are pretty fixed based on the spreadsheets that Davey does up for us. And well, actually, again, going back to what Cassie does a whole lot of stuff for the utility when it comes to figuring that out. So those are pretty fixed again, and the wages and stuff. Those will get adjusted smidge based on what we talked about. We'll adjust there, but no, awesome. This one's easy.
And when it comes to drainage, if we had some idea, we really don't. You know,
After we get an engineer to look at a couple of
maybe during, when it warms up or whatever, you allocate some money for engineering from Davey to come over and look.
that's gotta be the first step.
Maybe we'd have to wait all the way until we do the streets and roads and run a drain all the way to the river.
Yeah, but at least if we're heading that direction, then
Yeah.
people know you're heading that direction. That's
Because
half of it.
nothing's been done with it for 40 years and now,
It's just a bad summer.
yeah,
Not that next one won't be bad too.
right, that road. So, anything else? That concludes our business. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Actually, I think last year, didn't we motion to approve these budgets?
Yeah, so we did I thought we did that, we accepted it, but if we're gonna wait till Thursday, don't we gotta do it anyway or not?
Yeah, no, I guess we're good.
Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that. I got a motion by Mitch, second by Terry. Any further discussion? I'll call a motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. We are done.
Hey, thanks everybody.